Prince Michael went to the Laikipia airstrip in Nanyuki at the invitation of former Major Peter Mwaura Mugure. They did not leave alive. Their lifeless bodies were found a day later, hauled off the military base in sacks, destined for a public cemetery in the dead of night. The weekend was meant to be a bonding experience between the children and the mother and their estranged father and husband. Excuse me. But this never happened. So 2 years after their bodies were dug out of a shallow grave in Nanyuki, the triple murder trial against the former military man has barely progressed. Mugure has declined legal representation. However, the man who helped bury the bodies has taken a plea bargain in exchange for his testimony against Mugure. His confession, according to Collins Pamba, has spilled the beans on the events of October 26, 2019. He detailed how he helped the former soldier sneak the 3 bodies out of the military base undetected. So, today it's revealed that the sequence of events leading up to the triple homicide and the plan to get away with murder, including an attempt to have the crucial confession withdrawn. So Pamba, who has this information, is the only witness at this point. And he's currently serving a 5-year term for his part that he played in this murder. And the part that he played essentially was disposing of the bodies. Because Mugure, who Mugure, who essentially was his boss, called him and asked him, "I have a job for you to do tonight." And he said, "Okay, let's go." So he said, he went and said, "What do we need me to do?" It was in the dead of night, about 10 going to 11 p.m. And he said, "Here." He took him behind the hotel where they had asked him to meet and said, "Look, this job that I have for you to do, go to the airbase, wait for me there." He gave him 100 shillings to board a motorcycle. He did as he was told, and then he went to his home later on. 10 o'clock, he realized that Mugure had been trying to reach him, and he rang him back, and he instructed him to meet him at the airbase. He proceeded to the barracks, where he found Mugure at the parking lot of his residential plot. That is where he found him, essentially. Entering the house, he unlocked the door and put the key in his pocket. He proceeded to the bathroom where he tried to switch on the lights, but they were not going on. He says the former soldier used his cell phone to light up the bathroom and asked him to approach for further instructions. In his confession, he says that he noticed a luggage in a gunny bag tied with a plastic rope on the floor. And he was asked to now transport those bags. And it was clear that there were bodies lying in the bathtub and another one in a bag. He said it was facing downwards with a shaved head and a green T-shirt. And he told him to carry the bodies to the car and the parking lot. He tried to resist, saying he wouldn't do it, but he was told that if he didn't, he too would join the other bodies. And he was warned not to tell anybody about what he had seen or heard.
So he's saying he did this under duress.
Yes. And we now have a man who currently is declining legal representation and is trying to get this particular testimony thrown out.
You know, as you were saying it, you know what came to mind? Because you talk about chain of command, this was his boss.
Yes.
Reminds me of the Rome Statutes. When there's a discussion or a case about inhumane activities that involve the killing of numbers of people, we're talking about genocide here. And if the military was involved, one of the things that is a pillar in the thinking and the discussion process is, yes, it is known you participated. What did you do with the instructions that you were given? Can you demonstrate that you resisted? Can you demonstrate that you tried to avert it? And it explains the reason why whenever you have a case, such as the one we had in this country, there were individuals who were called and who went to The Hague. But you realize these were people, functionaries within government, and people who very likely got instructions. So the issue is, who did you get instructions from? And having gotten the instructions, what did you do? So the case that this gentleman is now speaking on, yes, you can try and expunge whatever information is given. But if it can be determined that indeed this person is your junior or works for you, and that you are in a position to actually give them instructions, I think that ties that little detail will tie it in.
When it comes to issuing instructions, though, if you're a military officer, does it mean that you can issue instructions to your juniors on any matter?
And they go ahead and perform?
No.
Because this is not a military function.
It isn't a military
It's
function.
outside your job. So someone can't just come and tell you, slap this one.
But why this person as opposed to others? It means the two of them had some sort of relationship.
Yes.
They had an understanding. Because beyond just the duties that are enshrined in your workplace, this is somebody who is my senior, and for all I know, they may be in a position to do me a favor.
Yeah.
So you will be, should we say, amenable to doing the boss favors.
what the boss is asking
Yes.
you to do. This is, again, one of those very sad cases. Point is that the lady and her children are dead.
Yep.
You know the things
And
you
the
read
father
about.
of these children is out there in court, and you don't sense any sort of remorse from him.
Was he taken for the usual tests
Before the case begins.
and he
yes.
was found that he's competent?
He's safe to, he's competent to undergo trial.
There's a question that I have to ask under these circumstances. If I look at the sequence of events, I have to ask the question, this particular individual, yes, he may be fit, as in he's alive, is well, he's cognizant, but of the many mental illnesses that people speak of, which essentially give you a personality that could be referred to as deviant, okay? Somebody who doesn't show remorse, does it not point one in that direction?
It's even recorded here that Pamba, who is the gentleman who was giving this confession, asked him, why have you killed these people when they were now transporting the bodies out of the base? And he simply answered, this woman was trying to get in the way of me getting my second wife. Simply answered, which Pamba, according to him, that answer took him by surprise.
Hey, time for a break. 6:30, Kenya's biggest conversation continues. Jobs.standardmedia.co.ke. That is the portal where you go and get jobs that have been advertised by various people who are looking for people like you and people with other competencies. Intercompany and bank accountant. Unilever is looking for someone like that. Overheads lead, 6 months maternity cover. Unilever is also looking for somebody like that. Kenya Airways is looking for customer relations and excellence manager. Do you think you fit that bill? Kenya Airways is also looking for a cargo sales and customer service executive. Emirates is looking for a senior cargo sales executive. These and very many other jobs. Jobs.standardmedia.co.ke. Check them out. If you find one that suits you, all the best. Apply.
"24/7 around the world, non-stop. This is Spice FM.
The COVID-19 pandemic has reminded us that knowing how to spot fake news can be the difference between life and death. The spread of fake news has national implications too. Is your governor really delivering on his campaign promises? Or does the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission have a watertight case against him? It all boils down to the news you consume. That's why SpiceFM and its partners have created the Fighting Fakes Media Literacy campaign to help Kenyans become more discerning news consumers. We'll show you how to take care before you share. Tune in to the Situation Room from 6 a.m. every weekday morning for refreshing and profitable conversations about the facts and only the facts.
What is the best gift to celebrate a birthday?
Cash, of course.
What if I told you that you can get cold, hard cash for celebrating a birthday? This June, Olivia Otieno, is giving 10,000 shillings to 41 lucky SpiceFM listeners to celebrate my 41st birthday. That's right, this June, 41 lucky SpiceFM listeners will get 10,000 shillings cash. All you need to do is SMS the word cash to 29599. That's cash to 29599. And if your SMS is number 41 or number 1041 every Monday to Friday, you walk away with 10,000 10,000 shillings cash. Each SMS costs 10 shillings. Terms and conditions apply. Go to spicefm.co.ke for more details.
Classic soul, R&B, smooth jazz, neo soul, and nostalgic ballads.
Make some noise. Yeah.
You're listening to Spice FM.
All right, so right around Zimmerman, there's already crazy traffic this morning, and it's affecting everything. Then outbound, traffic starts really far back on Thika Road this morning. Committee Road, Kameshikanambaya is what we are being told, from Canopy to Roy Sambo, moving very, very slowly, and in some cases, not moving at all. All right, coming off Mombasa Road into the city as well is moving very well. Not too much of an issue. The little hiccup around General Motors should not last too long. And then other parts of the city, it's looking all right. Then further down Thika Road, Kiambu Road has already piled up as you join Muthaiga Square, getting to the Pangani underpass. We already know that there will be thump action of traffic at Ngara today. It's going to be crazy, and it has already started to show the signs of that. So, right off the bat, use Wangari Maathai Road. It's a longer route, but you will not be stuck in traffic for too long if you decide to use it. All right. Apart from that, everything seems to be waking up slowly, more or less. Industrial area, then getting out towards Joko Road and out into the city. Doesn't look too bad right now. Let's see what it looks like in a short while. Tell us as well, should you run into anything? SpiceFMKE on Twitter. Text on 40127.
Spice FM, Malindi. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right.
Ambassador Ukuri Yatani, GH, is going to the joint sitting of Parliament today to present his budget. The headline on The Nation, Yatani headache. It's a tough balancing act for the Treasury CS as he tries to raise the hopes of a nation seeking relief from the economic shock of the COVID-19 pandemic amid a gaping revenue shortfall. His most pressing priorities include finding money from a thin resource envelope for President Kenyatta's Big Four legacy projects, borrowing at least 930 billion shillings to plug the budget deficit, and delivering on the promises that he has made to the IMF. 3.6 trillion shillings is what the government wants to spend in the next financial year. It can still raise just about 1.4 to 1.8 trillion shillings. The rest of the money is going to come from other sources. Now, the tightrope is hit list on taxes. Expected rise in tax. Bread, supply of ordinary bread to attract 16% VAT. Motorcycles. Any motorcycle costing above 79,000 shillings to attract excise duty at a flat rate of 15%. LPG to attract 16% VAT. That means that LPG will go up by at least 160 shillings for a 6 kg cylinder. Nicotine products and substitutes to attract 5,000 tax per kilogram. Commercial banks provisions for bad loans to be taxed. 20% excise tax reintroduced on all amounts on punters and betting. Excise duty at the rate of 10% for jewelry, including rings, bracelets, necklaces. Resident subcontractors in the mining sector and petroleum sectors to pay a withholding tax at 10% on service fee. So all this basically is what is coming out as how Yatani hopes to raise the money. The other big story here on The Nation is concern as the Big Four projects slide down Uhuru's priority list. The Big Four agenda's main objectives were to ensure quality and affordable healthcare, provide affordable and decent houses to an increased population, create millions of jobs through manufacturing. But going by the budget estimates, the Big Four projects have been allocated only 135 billion, a slight increase from the 128 billion received in the current financial year. And Jubilee appears to have basically applied the brakes on this particular one, but still they're receiving, these projects are receiving 135 billion shillings. Where is the money going to come from? How is Yatani going to be able to implement this? The House Committee on Budget and Appropriations has said the budget may not be implementable if the debt ceiling is not adjusted. Basically, they are saying we have to borrow more and we have got to allow the National Treasury to borrow more than what we are told it to borrow by 2024.
You know, this matter that you're speaking about doesn't just nestle within the boundaries of Kenya, okay? There are two individuals who have actually gone to the East African Court to raise this same matter. And they are suing EACE, East African, and Kenya. Okay? Attorney General Justice Kihara Kariuki and EAC Secretary General Mr. Peter Mathuki have been named as first and second respondents respectively in a case filed by two Kenyan organizations at the East African Court. The gist of this is they're saying, among other things, one, there were requirements and understandings that were penned regarding the ceiling that must be observed. There was also the need for Kenya to periodically report and indicate how it was managing these debt ceilings and the processes that they're following.
And opening up the debt register.
Precisely.
Who do we owe? How much are we
Yes, and that hasn't been happening.
paying?
So, anyway, they've then gone ahead and borrowed 2.34 billion. Now, they're saying, wait, this is a matter that must be resolved and a halt must be brought to this entire exercise. There's something about this particular issue of borrowing that has caught the attention to the citizens of this country. And I like what I see happening because people aren't sitting back and letting the inevitable happen. They are taking steps that they can to ensure. Remember, I poured cold water on the
Twitter barrage against the IMF.
the Twitter warrior. I said, actually, my friend, the IMF responded.
By giving Kenya money.
They gave Kenya money, but they didn't. Whatever was said did not go unnoticed. It's not as though they just ignored it and just gave Kenya money. They were going to give Kenya money anyway, okay? But the truth of the matter is, people aren't sitting back and waiting for some catastrophe to befall them. They're taking the steps that they feel they can. And if this thing has reached the East African courts, I dare say that it's our East African courts that are now on trial.
Parliament has very many questions to answer here. Because as a Kuri attorney comes to Parliament today, there's already some matters that are already fait accompli. They've been passed by Parliament. Parliament has said it's okay, you can spend this much. Parliament has already indicated that it's willing to adjust the debt ceiling and saying, it's okay. I mean, for you to spend this much, basically what we're telling you is look for the money wherever you're saying you're going to get it. And if borrowing is one of those, just go ahead and borrow. Parliament has not raised, every time there's the budget policy statement taken to Parliament, the Committee on Budget and Appropriations, with the help of the Parliamentary Budget Office, raises some questions. The Parliamentary Budget Office has, over the last number of years, been raising questions on how the money is appropriated, how the money is spent, and the tracking of that expenditure. It's contained somewhere in the report, but the conclusion of the report of a parliamentary committee is, let's approve. Without any further action on, say what, how do we rein in on the runaway guys at the National Treasury? So Parliament has a lot of questions to answer here, and they will go around and come and say, this is the Jubilee administration,
and not take,
the executive,
and not take responsibility for their action and or inaction.
Yep,
That's it.
But they never do.
There's certain things that should have been done, which is a direct responsibility of Parliament, which they will not take responsibility for. We know this.
Nobody
But
else
I think
has
it is
that responsibility
extremely
other than
important
them.
to continue highlighting that it is actually their responsibility.
it's their job.
It's their job. This is one of the main reasons that you're there.
When people talk about impeaching the president, how do we impeach Parliament exactly?
We recall each MP, each constituency begins a recall.
Now, we know that won't happen, but you can't help but censure them, because the truth of the matter is, you talk about legacy, the negative aspects of the presidential legacy is tied to the hip with this particular parliament that we have.
Yep.
Because they are the enablers.
Completely. And we have said this very many times on this show. This constitution has made our parliament a budget-making parliament. The budget is actually made in parliament.
Yes. And what does that mean? They can determine the direction that budget takes.
They can even say, no, we are not going to approve a budget of 3 trillion shillings. We want to bring a budget of 1.7 trillion shillings.
They can. And it'll be done.
And it will be done.
Yes.
Now, when they just... The Treasury comes with a budget policy statement of 3.2 trillion. And then the next time they come with a 3.6 trillion. And there are no questions being asked. Wait, the last time you told us that you wanted to spend 3.2 trillion shillings in this next year. Now you're telling us you want to spend 3.6. Explain. No questions like those ones being asked. You ask yourself, what are MPs doing?
And you have a situation which is really untenable. You have debt repayment, it's overtaking development spending. And you're asking, wait. What exactly have these guys got us into? How can we be spending more money than we are actually making or putting in projects that actually guarantee that we will generate the income we need to be able to spend?
Yeah.
But they seem completely blind and deaf to those sentiments.
Totally. Let's take a break and let's talk about Samsung.
Let's do that. And I have a question for you today.
Uh-huh.
Because Samsung is also still today giving out some great merchandise. If you can answer a question about one of the phones of this great A series that they've recently launched, okay? So we know that there's the A32, there's the A52, and there's the A72, which grants you fantastic ways to do many things. It has a battery that lasts, all three of them, battery that lasts a very long time, allowing you to talk for 2 days. 2 days, CT. 2 days. You can talk for 2 days.
Without recharging.
Yeah, that's a lot of talk. I don't know what you'd be saying, but okay. Parrot status. Anyway, and then also has a great camera so you can capture all these lovely life moments. And so that's in the A32, A52, and A72. So Samsung also wants to say thank you, for your patronage. And so we're going to ask you a question about one of these handsets, specifically the A32. It has a 20 MP selfie camera. Is this true or false? The Samsung A32 has a 20 MP selfie camera. Is this true or false? Let us know. SpiceFM KE on our YouTube, Facebook, or Twitter handles, and we will select 2 winners today. And you'll be awarded with some great Samsung merchandise. You're awesome, I'm awesome, we're all awesome.
24/7 around the world, non-stop. This is Spice FM.
Kubash Hood Edition is here, and we are all about the youth. They are young, energetic, ambitious, and they are the future. Kubash Hood Edition is all about creating brighter futures for young people, empowering them from issues mental health, peer pressure, innovation, and even parenting. Our show gives young people the practical and insightful support they need. From different segments from dance battles, shout-outs, artist of the week, to even Gava Corner. Kubash Hood Edition. We help them in building their confidence and motivation so they can continue to dream big. Kubash Hood Edition. Coming to a hood near you. Live on KTN Home every Saturday 1:30 p.m. to 3:30 p.m.
Sugar and spice and everything nice. Spice FM.
Spice up your life. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself.
All right, 12 minutes to 9. Levi is asking, good morning, great debaters. How come you are off air in Vihiga? Paul and Ndugu. Paul, our 102.5 frequency in Kisumu and the surrounding areas is off this morning, but it's being worked on by the technical team. Just follow us on our live streams, SpiceFM KE on Facebook, on YouTube or Twitter, or www.spicefm.co.ke.
All right, so county boundaries are defined according to CS Farida Karone. The Ministry of Lands has waded into the county boundary dispute, definitively definitively declaring set borders and setting the stage for a bigger battle for the control of key economic zones. At least 18 counties are wrangling with others over boundaries, with the center of it being the collection of levies. In a report to the two Senate committees, Lands Cabinet Secretary Farida Karonei said maps show some boundaries are not disputed. The CS said Konza Techno City is in Machakos and not Makueni County, for example. Kalama location, which is near Konza, was placed in Makueni by the Provinces and District Act 1992, but a legal notice 298 of 1998 and legal notice 57 of 1997 clarified that it is in Machakos, she said to senators. So you can understand where the wrangling is coming from. The Justice and Legal Affairs and the National Security Committees invited Ms. Karonei and Devolution CS Eugene Wamalwa, as well as Interior CS Fred Matiang'i, to give an update on the spats. The Land Minister said Maseno is in Kisumu and not Vihiga County, for example. The boundary description places Maseno in Kisumu County, but being a border town, its growth makes it flow over into neighboring Siaya and Vihiga. She refused to take a position on Kapedo, for example, which is disputed between Baringo, West Pokot and Turkana counties. She said there is confusion over whether Mtitwande, a decision by the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission in 2012, she said that the IEBC had settled it. There was confusion. And she said that in Mtitwande, the location of Kibwezi constituency is in Makueni and not in Taita Taveta, for example. So she came out with her facts from the different land acts to say all these things that we're quibbling over now, it is clear and it is documented where they are. So what we are going to take is the documented evidence. Now, you saying it is here because this, that, the other thing is not going to hold any water.
Tell me about the Taita Taveta thing again.
Okay, that's about Mtitwande, right? She says there was confusion over Mtitwande, but a decision by the IEBC in 2012 settled that. The IEBC issued a legal notice 14 of 2012 that clarified that Mtitwande location of Kibwezi constituency is in Makueni and not in Taita Taveta. Mtitwande is at the far end, southeast part of Makueni. The southeastern part of the location forms the county boundary.
Do you know, that one is clear. But as you move along that road, and you head towards Kwale, there are other areas that have fallen under the same discussion. I'm sure that is a newspaper article, but I'm sure if I were to go to the Ministry of Lands website,
find different.
I will find that all these things have been clarified.
Yes. And this is what she's saying.
You, this is not even the end. You see how many sources she's quoting? One is IEBC, one is Legal Notice 92, Legal Notice 98. The disputes are not over with these boundaries. Mtitwande, Makueni and Taita Taveta are not arguing about the town of Mtitwande and the revenue it brings.
No.
It's also the issue of the boundary of the Savo.
Thank you.
It also now brings in the issue of Konza, the Technopolis, and the revenue that it's supposed to bring. Who is going to take benefit from this? Makueni or Machakos. That issue is not over. And many others. There's those that she says Parliament is the one that needs to deal with it. So one is IEBC, another one will be sorted by Parliament, another one will be sorted. It's murky waters. I don't envy the position that she's in. Because the issue of boundaries, it starts from just neighbors. Where is my beacon? Umeiba 2 feet into my shamba. Now this is an entire county.
She did, however, say that the Constitution provides a clear procedure for amending county boundaries. She told MPs to enact a law, telling them now, do some work, that will adjudicate such disputes. And in order to resolve the issues comprehensively, the enabling legislation to implement the Article 188 needs to be enacted. If we want to have a lawful way to do this,
these matters,
you must then enact it.
Do you know, Eric actually got to the heart of this matter. What we are talking about here is a situation that is going to be fueled further. Because no one will sit back and say that this boundary actually ought to be here as opposed to here. Because everyone wants a boundary to favor them.
Yep.
But you know what? The institution that we are asking to settle this is an institution that is in disrepute. So, the decisions that they make, how will we be able? They'll make that decision. It'll go to court.
This one it's not going to be easy. Well, we have the IEBC. When it comes up with the boundary issue, it looks at boundary issue from that level of ward level, constituency level, county level. It even goes into those other areas. How do we adjudicate boundary disputes? Is it done by the IEBC? And that's what I think the CS is asking.
And Eric, when you talk about IEBC...
Is it the Lands Ministry? Is
And
it the
because there's
National
no
Land
clarity of
Because the
such.
National Land Commission also has issues of adjudicating matters
They
of
do.
land disputes.
In fact, one assumes it is them
Yeah.
who have the mandate to sort this thing out. And IEBC, is it boundaries that have to do with constituencies and wards?
It's electoral boundaries.
Yes.
Should ordinarily just be electoral boundaries,
Yes.
right?
Because
But you see, electoral boundaries, when you talk about electoral boundaries in a county, then you've sorted the issue.
However, because as you're saying it, I'm thinking of certain boundaries that I know of, and people are saying, this boundary actually used to be on this side. And now,
No,
during so-and-so's presidency, it went
came
to
to
the
this
other
side.
side. A can of worms.
Big one. We'll talk about CJ Maraga, what he said later. But there are very many other things that we need to talk about. What's in the
Do you have a
business
minute?
headline? Yes.
Yes, I'm looking at the Business Daily. Billionaire Rai family in Mumias lease race.
Right.
The gentleman who had shown an interest, the Devki CEO, a gentleman by the name of Narendra Raval, has withdrawn. He has even formally told his bankers, KCB, and said, I'm no longer involved in this.
I'm not coming.
There are too many political overtones in this. Why this caught my attention?
Yeah.
These are hardcore business people who want to get involved in this. And what it tells me is that they know money can be made from it.
It is a very serious venture.
It is. And why is it that the small-scale farmer, who is actually the principal grower of the product that that particular enterprise requires, why is it that they always get the short end of the stick?
So let me ask you, because I've seen the politics around it, and the matter, once it now gets a politician to talk and say, oh, Mwananchi and now Thulumiwa, basically it's just saying the politician is asking for a seat at the table.
Yes.
How would we guarantee the livelihoods of the farmers? See, if this thing goes to a private investor, and the private investor is basically not going to grow the cane, the private investor is looking at
The production.
the production.
Yes.
So the farmer is going to be sorted. You'd assume so. I'm saying that because the Senate yesterday had summoned the receiver manager of this particular. So they have a KCB loan. So KCB has appointed a receiver manager, and the receiver manager, a gentleman by the name of Panongipali Venkata Ramana Rao, went to the Senate yesterday, and he said, what we have done is we've advertised for bids for this particular factory, and we're giving away a long-term lease, a 50-year lease, for you to come, operationalize this thing, pay back the bank, and then it benefits everybody. We have not opened the bids yet. So there are bids that have come in. We haven't opened any of them yet. Senate ordered full disclosure of details of this particular lease. They were also raising questions and saying, 50 years. 50 years is too long. The receiver manager came and explained why they were going with this 50 years and all. But that's why I was asking you the question. Because now you see, now Senate has started ordering these things and saying we want more details. We want some of those companies that sent in bids are from India, and most of them don't deal in sugar. Some deal in cables, and their portfolios show some have only 10 employees. This is according to Kakamega Senator Cleophas Malala, who is among those who've been very vocal on this particular issue. I'm torn between letting business, private sector just come in and run this company.
And you're right to think so.
And then the farmers will benefit because they'll know where to sell their cane. Or bringing in the whole shenanigans again of what should happen in this particular.
Do you know the way the government structured this was very beautiful? You know why? The voice of the farmer was a SACCO that the farmers were all members of. And they had a stake in the factory, and they would elect from among themselves somebody who would represent them as a director in
the factory.
Yes, exactly.
Sitting on the board.
Yes. So in the board. So everything that happened within this particular industry was something that the farmer could benefit in. Perhaps a rejigging so that the voice of the farmer is a little louder than it previously was, and it's enshrined in some document. Because if that isn't the case, business enterprises are profiteers.
So short end of the stick again.
It will continue. You will be getting paid on time, yes, but you may be getting...
how much?
Yes, but how much and what do you benefit from?
Okay. Let's discuss that a bit when we come into the next hour. Good morning. It's now 7 a.m.
Sugar and spice and everything I know. Spice FM.
Spice up your life. The latest news from around the world. 94.4 Spice FM.
This is Newswire. I'm Dennis Aseto. Treasury CS Ukuri Yatani will today unveil the 3.66 trillion shillings budget for the 2021-2022 financial year to Kenyans. The budget that is the highest has a shortfall of 930 billion shillings, with all eyes on Yatani on the tactics he will use to compensate for the shortfall. Meanwhile, Yatani, while speaking to KTN, says his ministry has put measures to ensure that the debt level is lowered.
Let me assure you, Kenya, unlike many countries in the region and beyond, has never defaulted on its obligation to pay debts. Our debt levels are highly sustainable, but we are also taking cautious steps to reduce our debt levels to levels that we are comfortable with. And in this budget, we have set for ourselves in the medium term, over 3 years, that we want to reduce our budget deficit from the current 8.7 to 3.6, and that requires support and understanding of all the players.
We asked you what you thought, and this is what you had to say.
Kwanza waangalie mwanaishi wa kawaida ni nini haswa anapaswa apunguziwe ili maisha iendelee kama tulivyokuwa hapo mbeleni.
Kwanza mbele kabisa waangalie watu tubo. Watu wako na njaa, my friend. Watu wako na njaa hakika.
Kuwepo na fedha za kuangalia wananchi ambao wameathirika na mambo ya corona.
The CBC is a great module of education that encourages a more balanced approach. Speaking exclusively to KTN's Frank Otieno, the Earl of Wessex, Prince Edward, says it's encouraging to see that Kenya has embraced the curriculum that goes away from the traditional mode of education to a more balanced one.
I think Kenya is very much leading the continent and is a fantastic example to many other countries, the way that you have embraced a more balanced curriculum, a more balanced education. And I mean, the figures speak for themselves. I mean, there are over 100,000 young Kenyans involved in the award at the moment, and that's all over the country, which is even more impressive. And you know, certainly my father's vision was that the award should be open to all, and that's been taken to heart in Kenya in a fantastic way. So it's great to see that.
Referring to the centenary celebrations of his father, the late Duke of Edinburgh, and these Education Award, Edward praised the leadership and education stakeholders for championing for the curriculum he says gives life skills that are more important out of class. Ainamoi Secondary School principal is fighting for his life at Kericho County Hospital after a Form 3 student hit him in the middle of the head with a piece of wood with a 4-inch nail on its end. The victim was in his office when the suspect accosted and whacked him on the head, driving the nail deep into the principal's skull. The student did not take it kindly after the principal ordered for his desk and chair to be taken away until his parents clear a 7,000 shillings fee balance. Jack Grealish says he's elated to play for England at the Euro 2020, for it's been a lifelong dream. The Aston Villa midfielder played his way into contention this season and has won 7 caps since making his England debut in September. This is Newswire. I'm Dennis Aseto.
Spice FM, Nakuru.
Okay, so there's still that crazy traffic right around Zimmerman, and then it's affecting outbound traffic on Thika Road today, going all the way through to the turnoff from Kiambu Road, and then everybody converges at the Pangani underpass, and it's an absolute mess right now, heading towards Ngara as well, very, very slow. All right, General Motors headed out towards Bellevue on Mombasa Road, not too bad. The outbound on the Express also isn't too bad as well right now. The bypass is looking pretty good south off of Mombasa Road, and also Eastern Bypass also looking good as you then try and go and connect with Thika Road. But I wouldn't do that just yet because Thika Road doesn't look too pretty today. You might want to stick on Mombasa Road if you're trying to get into the city and then use that route. Okay, KFS says that there are 3 ferries up for service today. Don't forget, it's *71#. Pay your ferry toll via M-Pesa. They're not accepting cash or you will be stuck. Let's take a look in about half an hour when we're in traffic hour proper and see what it looks like. But doesn't look like it's going to be too crazy of a Thursday. SpiceFM KE is how you can reach us on Twitter. Text on 40127.
This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Oko, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latif, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is The Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
Okay, it's 5 minutes after 7 o'clock. Kenya's biggest conversation enters the second hour. Thank you very much for joining us. City, let's hear today's proverb.
If a child learns the trail of the snake, he will also learn the wanderings of the snake.
If a child learns what?
If a child learns the what here is the trail of the snake, then there's another what here. Then he will also learn the wanderings of the snake.
Okay.
Trail, learned. Wanderings, learned.
Snake?
Snake.
Okay.
Okay. But are they likely to learn the dangers of the snake, whether snake is dangerous or not?
But see, they're a snake.
They will have been informed.
They will know that they are dangerous.
They will. They will. If you live in an area where there are snakes, one of the things that you're taught at a very early age is the danger of snakes. Oh, that you're told, for sure. If you live in an area where there are scorpions, you're also told. The only thing that you're not told adequately is when you live in an area where there are politicians, you are not told just how dangerous they are.
That they are also snakes.
That would be insulting the reptile.
Hey. Okay. It's the second Thursday of June. It's the 10th day of the month. And today, the Cabinet Secretary for the National Treasury, Ukur Yatani, will be presenting the budget before a joint sitting of Parliament. 3.632 trillion shillings, highest ever budget in the country. We've been talking about this budget for many months now, as we geared up towards this day. And what will be important is to hear how the CS intends to balance how he finances this particular budget. What is he likely to do? What is he going to do? What kind of policy direction is the National Treasury going to adopt in the next 12 months? After that, we will hear now Parliament now coming into the appropriation and divvying up the money into the various functions and jobs. But then it will all be done. The question, and like you've heard in the news, is the question that has been asked of Kenyans. What would you expect? What do you want the National Treasury to consider as they roll out this budget? And people are saying, waangalie mambo ya tumbo. Kenyans are coming from a point where the economic situation in the country was severely hit by COVID-19. Many lost their jobs. Many lost their livelihoods. People are trying to readjust to that. Many started small businesses. Are you going to be able now to support those small businesses, or are you going to kill the small businesses via introduction of taxes and levies? Remember, at the same time, after this, counties are going to come up with their own budgets. And county budgets will be how they can also raise their own source revenues. and that will be affecting licenses and levies at the county level. So if you are operating a business, you're operating a business within a certain county, there are taxes that you're paying at the national level, there are levies and licensing that you're paying at the local level. Are you going to be able to sustain operating that business? Are we going to see more businesses thriving or more businesses shutting down? Are we going to see the country being able to actually finance this particular budget? Let's bring in two experts to help us have this conversation. Gabriel Okoyo is a director at Frontera Consulting, and Jürgen Murungi is a business development director for Anglophone Africa at Delarue, and they're both joining us on the line. Good morning, gentlemen.
Good morning.
Good morning.
It's good to have you on the show. Asanteni sana for joining us. I'm going to start with you, Gabriel. Looking at this particular budget, 3.62 trillion shillings, and looking at how much the government has been able to raise through revenues in the last couple of years, do you see the government being able to actually meet the revenue, raising of the revenue, and at the same time, the budget deficit? How is the government going to be able to raise this money?
Thanks very much, Eric, for the question. I think one of the ways that we can see from the finance bill that the minister tabled before Parliament, government is attempting to widen the tax net and deepen the tax net. And by widening is bringing more people into the tax brackets, and we can see that by various amendments and that other taxes that they introduced in 2020, like digital service tax. So, for instance, they are saying that any business carried on over the internet, will be subject to tax. So they are widening the ambit of tax. And more importantly, they are also trying to make businesses restrict what they can deduct for tax purposes, like changing what you call, thin capitalization rule. Previously, let me just take a step back. They implied that if a business had a borrowing, if your business was for finance professionals, you can call it highly leveraged, where you have debt and equity in financing your operations, you could deduct interest up to 3 times your equity. But now the government is coming in to say that they are changing the base of deducting that interest to what you can call EBITDA, that is earning before interest, tax, depreciation, and amortization, and limiting interest deductibility up to 30%. So these measures will ensure that there is more tax for the taxman to collect. In terms of spending, I think the government will still run a deficit because of the huge infrastructure projects that we have. I do not foresee a situation where the government is meeting both its revenue side and curbing on expenditure. And traditionally, heading into elections, we usually see government increasing spending. So I foresee the deficit to widen.
When you say, well, first of all, thank you. Some of that terminology that you've used actually just went over my head, but nonetheless, I take the view that we're talking about what is owed, what is not owed, what can be spent. Some of these new taxes that we are speaking of, or some of the new entrants into this tax bracket that we speak of. For instance, there's one you mentioned, digital tax. Did I hear you mention something of that sort?
Yes, digital service tax.
Okay, digital service tax. Explain this a little bit so that I understand what it actually is, please.
So I'll make a go at it. The digital service tax, government previously, the people who carry on business over the internet previously were not subject to tax prior to 2020. And in 2020, the government brought in what you call the digital service tax. That is tax on 2.5% of business that is carried over on a digital platform. That is, if you are doing the eBay, the Amazon. Traditionally, when you shop online and these multinationals, so to speak, gain income from Kenya or accrue income from Kenya, there is no way that the government is taxing them. And all the internet platform, the influencers, all people who are using internet, so to speak, to earn a living, the influencers, the digital marketers, the online shops, and all that. So in 2020, the government brought in a law to ensure that that marketplace, so to speak, like the online and digital platforms, the businesses that are carried on there, they are subject to tax. But the operationalization of that law has been a challenge a little bit in terms of, it's a new law. It's like a storm in a teacup.
Yeah.
You are trying to put in measures into place to, ensure that taxes are paid. And even the bigger question is that who is subject to that tax? Is it the person making the online purchase, or the person making the online sale, or the person who has the platform? Because you may realize, if I take an example of Amazon, maybe the person who is selling is not actually Amazon, but several, vendors advertise their products on the online platform, and then people buy.
Yeah.
So when you say that digital marketplace is subject to digital service tax, who is it to be taxed, and how do you collect that tax?
Jürgen, as we look at the budget, I mean, it will be delivered today. There's a lot of speculation as to what is going to happen with Kenyans' taxes. Are you able to say or look at what should we expect in terms of an increase?
First, I want to say thank you for the question, and then I want to swiftly delve into opinions on how the tax looks like and how hygienic it is, if I was to use the word. I want to quickly refer to your previous question on whether we think the government is going to achieve the targets that they have set for the budget. I will speak about this by saying the speed at which our appetite for expenditure has grown is not matched by the speed at which our economy has been growing. And therefore, we have been compelled as a nation to spend more of money we don't have, and then we turn ourselves into a nation of borrowers. I want to give you a quick run into that budget, and I answered the question specifically once I do that. If you look at the anticipated collection in taxes, it's going to be in the region of 1.668 billion, which is, 1.7 billion, give or take.
Trillion.
We then intend to spend...
Is it billion or trillion?
Trillion, my apologies. Then we intend to spend 3.6 trillion. So we're basically not even raising half of the intended expenditure from tax collection. Now, even that 1.7 trillion is extremely ambitious. And I'll give you a good example why. If you look at excise duty, for example, we are anticipating to grow excise duty collection by 15% in the financial year to the region of 241 billion. Now, if I was to remind you, excise duty is a sin tax. It's collected from your bad manners when you go and drink your whiskey or smoke your tobacco. Now we've had a period when there has been serious shutdowns and lockdowns, and most of the entertainment places have been closed. If you look at the performance of Kenya breweries, for example, it will give you an indicator because they have paid 49% less excise duty in the last 12 months. So how are we imagining that we are going to even raise collection by another 15% in the prevailing environment where, one, the places that sell products that are excisable are closed. What we call spending power of the population has been reduced. People no longer party as they used to do.
Yeah.
So you cannot justify to me how you're going to collect 15% more excise when we are selling 40% less alcohol. That's one. Now, I want to go to the other taxes. We can revisit them, but I want to go back and answer the question specifically. Where do we expect to hit? One of the most ridiculous ones is there's a proposal to collect 16% VAT on LPG, that is liquefied petroleum gas. Now, you remember 3 years back, there was a general ban on logging and a ban on charcoal burning, which was supposed to address environmental concerns and issues to do with deforestation. Good move. We need the forest and all that.
Yeah.
But then the policy, if you formulate it, has to be comprehensive. So you don't, on one hand, ban logging, and on the other hand, increase the cost of procuring the alternative to logging. What you're doing is you're turning charcoal burners to illicit traders in the realm of bank traders. And to be honest with you, what you'll end up producing is a situation where burning and selling of charcoal becomes such a lucrative business for the underworld. So if your LPG is going to go up by 16%, if it's 2,000 now, you're going to have a 320 shillings hit on it. We are going to have VAT on bread. Yeah, that means you have to shift to other sources of sustenance. Probably you might shift to solar power like the plant. So it's one good example of the fact that basics are going to become more expensive to finance increased appetite for expenditure, coming at the worst time when the global economy has been hit by, of course, the COVID challenges, and we have not been left out. Our people are also affected in the same way.
What I hear you saying, if I'm right, is that we are in to put it simply, a very sticky situation where, on the one hand, there seems to be this idea that is being put across by the government that they actually want to find new ways of collecting money, and yet the very action and the policies they're putting in place seem to guarantee the complete opposite. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, that's what I'm saying. And there's one very popular theory amongst tax collection and tax theorists called the Lafar curve, which basically tries to explain that taxing people more does not necessarily resort to more revenue. There's a tipping point where more taxes, more tax incidents, that means more percentages of tax being levied on the revenue, result to less revenue collection. A good example I'll always remind people is when there was an increase in excise duty on keg beer, there was serious proliferation of illicit drinks that caused quite a number of deaths and blindness. There was, the Ata Ukizima Tatu Pendelea story that developed out of a tax situation. It developed out of a tax situation when keg became extremely expensive, and what you suffer is something we call arbitrage. So the consumers tend to look for the next available alternative within their spending bracket. So if you cannot afford your cigarette because it has become too expensive, you go to hand-rolled tobacco, from which you deny government revenue. So you'd rather tax it at a level where the pain threshold is not too much to bear, and therefore you assure yourself of collections. But when you take it too high, you suffer slippage. People move into the next bracket within the illicit space.
There's a discussion that one keeps hearing in the energy sector that Kenya is able to actually produce more power than it actually needs. Okay? And that one would assume that if that is what we're able to do, then it means we become a net exporter. Yet, what one sees is, power cost in the country doesn't go down. It goes up. Okay, and yet we have, in theory, an oversupply. I'm sure there is some logic, there's a matrix that somebody uses to explain to me, but it defies any logic that I know of. If something is in great abundance, it shouldn't cost you more, it should cost you less. That's...
I'll give a quick answer to that question, an answer that most people will not like, but I'll let Gabriel have a run at it because he's a power person.
Yes.
So my quick answer is this. It's the ridiculousness of the entire setup. Kenya Power and Lighting Company is listed in the Nairobi Stock Exchange, right?
Yep. It is.
That means individuals, you and I, can own it and enjoy the dividend.
Yes, in theory, yes. That is how the theory goes, yes.
Let me get to the point slowly. Yet I fail to understand how we are charged money for power distribution in the budget, yet once all that work is done, private individuals are allowed to enjoy the benefit of the money that was spent in Ketraco and all those bodies to do the work. So basically we are financing private individuals using public resources. Now, that's a discussion we can expand for long, but that is the first stage in the ridiculousness of using state resources to finance a company that is listed. In essence, it's a private company. We should have nothing to do with Kenya Power using state resources. We should actually even sell that company to the various counties, split it up, because that monopoly is what has caused the problem. And then there's the understanding that you'll always receive financing and support from government, so you can become careless. and mismanage whatever you have. So the answer to your question from my side is a total mismanagement of the whole situation. Because the people who sell power to Kenya Power make a profit. That is independent power producers.
Even
Yet Kenya Power makes a loss to sell power that they never
Produce
spent
in the
a shilling
first
to
place.
produce. Yeah. So Kenyan and All Power and Ormat and Vika Power make power, sell it to Kenya Power and make a profit. Kenya Power marks it and distributes it using Ketraco resources which are free, using last mile resources which are also free. But still, in that space between purchasing and giving you power, they make a loss.
Yeah,
How do you explain that?
Can of worms there you've opened, Jürgen. But let's hear from Gabi.
Thanks very much, Jagan, and thanks, Latif and Du. You know, just picking it from where Jagan has said, we joke in our social circles that, you see, if the people who make shots at Kenya Power just go to the office and be nice, you know,
Gabi.
don't work.
Gabi,
Hello?
there are
Yes.
three of us here. There's CT Muga, there's Eric Latif, and there's Ndu. So start again.
Thanks very much, Jagan. Thanks, Latif. Thanks, Ndu, and thanks, City Muga.
Ah, Bas. Now we can continue. Yes.
Thank you. Yeah, sorry for the oversight. Yeah. So, picking on from what Jagan has said, we usually joke that, you know, if the guys calling the shots at Kenya Power just go to the office, take tea, read newspaper, yani just be good guys, Kenya Power should not make a loss. Because the reason I'm saying this is, if you look at your electricity bill, Kenya Power charges you even foreign exchange losses or gains. They charge you for basically everything. If you look at the rundown of your electricity bill, there'll be there all the adjustments that they have incurred. And foreign exchange gain, they're charging us because they incurred some loans in foreign currency and we are paying our bills in shillings. So when the shillings and the dollars, you know, dance and there's foreign exchange losses and all that, Kenya Power passes such losses to consumers. So it actually baffles me why Kenya Power makes losses. And that is why we usually say that for Kenya Power to make losses, someone actually goes out, works very hard for Kenya Power to make losses. And following that, the president, His Excellency Uhuru Kenyatta, just formed a committee to investigate why the power cost in Kenya is high. And we see that they are going to review the what you call IPP agreements, that is the independent power producers agreements with KenGen or whoever they are producing power and producing power with. To me, in my humble opinion, I think the focus is wrong. The focus should be on transmission, because looking at Kenya Power's financial statements for the year just ended, they made, was it 6 billion losses, 6 billion shillings in transmission losses. That one tells us something. The transmission system is so inefficient that actually you are using more power to transmit less power. That's what it is. So for a company of its magnitude and of the resources it has, for it to use more power to transmit less power to consumers, something needs to be done. And again, reviewing, you know, having advised power sector and looked at the value chain of the power system, Ketraco transmits, KenGen produces and other independent power producers, and then Kenya Power basically needs to connect domestic customers. For those who have tried to get electricity connection to Kenya Power, it's ridiculous. First, there is no standardization, so consumers really don't know what they're paying. And even it happens to us. If you happen to ever buy your power through the prepaid bill using, you know, same amount, let's just say you are buying a power for 1,000 bob, the units you will get, if you buy them in taxation, like you buy 1,000 3 times, there'll be very different units. There's variance.
Yeah.
That variance, you try to call Kenya Power, no one can explain to you. So we really don't know what they're doing there at Kenya Power, and they should not be making the losses they're making. That's the bottom line.
Big questions there. We're having a conversation with Gabriel Okoya, who is a director at Forterra Consulting, and Jürgen Morongi, a business development expert, talking about tax. Is the government going to be able to raise and finance the 3.6 trillion shilling budget for the next financial year? This is what Ukur Yatani, the CS for the National Treasury, will be presenting before Parliament today. The questions are, why does he need so much money? And where is he going to get the money from? Keep it right here as we take a break now at 28 minutes after 7 o'clock. Jobs.standardmedia.co.ke. It's a website that is run by Standard Group, where jobs have been advertised by various people. And if you go onto jobs.standardmedia.co.ke, you'll be able to find many jobs that have been listed. If you don't find one that suits you, just subscribe and you'll get job alerts. Whenever a relevant job is posted or listed, you shall receive an SMS or you shall receive an email alerting you that there's somebody who is looking for the kind of skills that you have. Jobs.standardmedia.co.ke. Let's also talk about Samsung A series.
Yes, let's. So we're asking that question today for you to be able to walk away with some great Samsung merchandise. And the question that we'd like you to post on our social media handle, SpiceFM KE on Facebook, YouTube, or Twitter. That question is, the Samsung A32 has a 20MP selfie camera. Is this true or false? The Samsung A32 has a 20MP selfie camera. Is this true or false? One of the things that allows you to be absolutely awesome with the Samsung series, A32, A52, or A72, is the camera to capture those awesome moments that you'll face in life. Ask the question, is it 20MP on the A32 or not? Let us know.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. Spice up your life. 24/7, around the world, non-stop. This is Spice FM.
As the Kenyans are roared into the home straight here. 4 Kenyan queens have lit up this balmy Bahamian night.
It's where the rivalry is unmatched, where the soul meets the track, where the great are distinguished from the good. An arena where the records are broken.
A new world record. It's not just been beaten, it's been obliterated.
A stage where the legends are born. For Team Kenya, the Olympics is more than just a sport. It is our tradition. It's an event that has put Kenya on the roadmap. The Standard Group lets you watch every minute and every action live in the 2020 Tokyo Olympics. Because we live for Team Kenya. We live for the game. At Standard Group, sports lives here.
What is the best gift to celebrate a birthday?
Cash, of course.
What if I told you that you can get cold, hard cash for celebrating a birthday? This June, I, Olivia Otieno, is giving 10,000 shillings to 41 lucky Spice FM listeners to celebrate my 41st birthday. That's right, this June, 41 lucky Spice FM listeners will get 10,000 shillings cash. All you need to do is SMS the word cash to 29599. That's cash to 29599. And if your SMS is number 41 or number 1041 every Monday to Friday, you walk away with 10,000 shillings cash. Each SMS costs 10 shillings. Terms and conditions apply. Go to spicefm.co.ke for more details.
Hello.
Halo, umesikia?
Nimesikia nini?
Hujasikia habari? Hebu acha nikuambie. Kile kimetokea.
Hello? Hello? Hello?
Don't wait for hearsay. Dial star 550 star 1 hash to read the Standard e-paper from the convenience of your mobile phone for only 20 shillings from your telecom line, and stay up to date for a reliable source with over 100 years of experience with no additional data charges.
Classic soul, R&B, smooth jazz, neo soul, and nostalgic ballads.
Make some noise. Yeah!
You're listening to Spice FM.
Nairobi, it'll come to lows of 13 today. 13 will also be the low in Nyeri. It's 14 and cloudy. Highs of 21. Highs of 25 in Nakuru. It's sunny at 13. And 12 in Eldoret. It's sunny at 12. Sunny conditions in Kisumu at 17. Highs of 29 and lows of 18. We'll also see highs of 29 in Kakamega. It's sunny at 17. Light rain in Mombasa at 24, going to highs of 29. 28 will be the high in Malindi, where it's raining now as well. Mostly sunny conditions at 19 in Kampala. And out into Dar es Salaam, it's sunny at 22, highs of 30 and lows of 22, 6 degrees in Clare and Joburg, highs of 15 and lows of 7, and it's raining in Lagos still at 23, highs of 32 and lows of 25. 34 will be the high in Kinshasa, it's partly cloudy, and we'll see highs of 34, lows of 24, which is what it currently is.
Spice FM, Nyeri. Spice up your life.
All right, the situation on Thika Road easing up just a tad, but not too much. The bypass, the Eastern, there's been an accident there this morning, so again, we need to watch out for that. If you're using the Eastern as a quicker route to get into the city, it looks like now that's not going to happen because there's been an accident that has taken place there. All right, getting off onto Kenyatta Avenue, coming via Valley Road, it's also slow into the CBD. There are pockets of traffic, so we're watching out for this as well. So, like we said, the Eastern bypass heading to Thika Road on the stretch. For folks who are using that as an outlet, it's not going to happen. And then we have traffic still tailing as far back as Zimmerman today. So Thika Road is the no-go zone. If you can avoid it, do. For those of you who are on it and are getting out, use Wangari Maathai then to get out of Ngara, or to come off Limuru Road, use Wangari Maathai. It's your go-to road to avoid the traffic today. SpiceFM KE on Twitter. Text us 40127. Let's keep things moving.
Spice up your life. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself.
25 minutes to 8.
Mornings done right. 94.4.
You in the morning this morning, Eric Latif Nduoko, CT Muga, and joining us on the line is our two tax experts, Jürgen Murungi, who is a business development expert working with Delarue, and Gabriel Okoyo, director for Terra Consulting. So 3.6 trillion shillings budget. And my question that I keep asking myself is, how does the government justify the need to spend 3.6 trillion shillings? If you look over the last 8 years, we've come from a budget of what, 1.8 or so trillion shillings to 3.6 trillion shillings. Year on year, what's the explanation that's given by the CS in charge of the National Treasury for the increase in the spending every year? Let's start with you, Gabby.
Thanks very much. Yeah, I think the obvious one is the infrastructure expansion. Let's give it to government. I know there are varied opinions out there, but there's been some visible infrastructure expansion. Although I may start with the elevated road that is being built, the superhighway, Mombasa Road, is a private-public partnership, so there is no, technically the government's money that is going there is very less. But there's been, you know, if you go up north, the sites of Moyale, if you go down or the western part of the country, we have seen some considerable, you know, expansion of new roads, tarmacking of all-weather roads. So the obvious reason why the government will say that the spending has been going up is because of the huge infrastructure projects that it has undertaken. We still go back to that, you know, including, I see Eric is disagreeing, but we still go back to also that, like, we are net exporters of power, ideally. They will tell us, oh, we've been doing all these, you know, infrastructure projects. We have the Lamu port down there. We have something happening along they call it the Lapset corridor. And of course, we also had the proposed oil pipeline, which has not taken off from Turkana down to Lamu. So the obvious reason, I think, and what is consuming the budget is the infrastructure. And then let me also not forget the government wage bill. You call it the operational cost of running government. For whatever reason, and I think it's still fresh in our minds because we are still in the COVID era. What the scandals that we've had, you know, KEMSAs, NYS 1 and 2, and all this. Let's face it, this is public money that is being misappropriated into a few private individuals' pockets. And you see, when money is misappropriated, you need to look for money to cover the hole or to use it for the intended purpose. So the misappropriation, which you can call it corruption in summary, and the infrastructure projects, and of course the general cost of running the government, which has also been expanding. Because previously, as Eric has put it, let's call it 8 years ago, we didn't have some posts like the chief administrative secretaries. When you introduce such positions in your operation, which the courts have ruled to be, how do you want to put it, unconstitutional. These guys come with their PAs, they come with office and, cars and everything, the trappings of powers of such offices. So maintaining such a balloon executive, so to speak, requires money. So that is why our budget has been growing and growing. We don't know to what end.
Yeah, what I was asking that is, you can say, yes, there has been an increase in infrastructural development at the commencement of infrastructural projects. My question mainly is, do we actually see value for money for the increase in government expenditure in those years? Can we say that our budget in 2013 was X amount of money, it rose by X 100 billion shillings in the next financial year, and we can see where the extra money went to? Can we look back and audit and say, there's actually value for money? You can all see, you can feel it. Yes, we have seen the roads, but have we seen the roads that were meant to have been built? Have we seen expansion in the energy sector that was meant to have happened on paper? Is what's on paper relatable to what's on the ground, Jürgen?
I first want to differ with Gabriel on his argument that, we've seen government build roads and do all those other things. And I'll give two examples to you, Eric. And one of the examples I'll give you is an example where you have a dad and you have one cow and you have your siblings and you like taking milk, which the cow produces. And then your dad comes and slaughters it so that you can have meat. So then the next day, you are all there. There is no milk because you had too much meat the previous day. So have we been trying to build tarmac at any cost? Have we been trying to build airports like in Isiolo at any cost? Like we are going to do anything, including killing the cows, to build that airport in Isiolo, which does not have any planes landing there. The other second example I'll give you to then proceed with this statement and I explain myself is the story of the dinosaur. If you look at the evolutionary stories, the dinosaur became extinct because at one time the damn animals were eating everything on their path and they grew too big for their own existence, right? So they ended up dying. Even today, you hear people dying of cardiac arrest and other weight-related issues just because of excessive consumption. The question that I would want to ask is, are we driving our appetite for built infrastructure too much so that it's not matched with the rate at which the rate of the economy is growing, to the extent where we'll end up having many ghost airports, many roads leading to nowhere, and many railway lines leading to nowhere? For me, the biggest concern here is, are we developing the rest of the economy at the same pace? Would we say there's enough appetite to build as many referral hospitals and as many cottage industries and EPZ zones as we are building the roads? The answer will be no. So what will the roads be transporting if we don't have cottage industries that will be feeding that road with produce? If the agricultural sector is not developed at the same pace, such that we have enough produce to be taken to the market and to be taken to the ports for export. So we build ports that end up turning us into a serious importer of products made from India and China and the rest of the places, because in the process of trying to allocate money to build the ports and the airports, we ignored the producer end of our economy. We ignored the agricultural support programs. We ignored the education sector, so the children are not becoming good entrepreneurs. So if I was then to go back to the question, Eric, you asked, you spoke as if you are one of these guys who are auditors like myself. In a public sector audit, there are three questions that you always try to answer: economy, efficiency, and effectiveness. So when we talk about the efficiency, sometimes we call it efficacy. Is this project the best project for the people of that place? If, for example, I go to Lake Victoria and build a dam near the lake, that would be the height of ridiculousness, right? but I could go and build a dam in Aurora. So that is the efficiency of the project. It's efficient for the places being set up. But in terms of the economy, we had 23 billion shillings being lost in a dam that never took off. Even mobilization of equipment never happened. Now, that was not an economical project at all. If you're going to do a railway line and there are no goods to transport on that railway line, then there's no effectiveness. It's not an effective project and there's no economy in it. So the biggest problem we've had, even if Gabe says we need roads, which I agree, is that we've been doing these projects at 3, 4, 5 times the price they would ideally cost. I would not be stupid enough to compare our situation with the situation in Ethiopia and Tanzania, because the Tanzania SGR cost much less, the Ethiopia SGR cost much less, but I appreciate the fact that in those two countries, there's no compensation for land, and if it's there, it's minimal. So land drove the prices up. But we've read and heard and seen cases in court where officers charged with the responsibility to oversee the compensation of land would approach you as a landowner and strike a deal where they triple the price so that they get a cut. So our projects, whether well intended or not, have not been economical. Number two, we have got excessive appetite for huge infrastructure projects because they present a huge opportunity for kickbacks. Right? So if we can tame that appetite for excessive appetite for huge infrastructure projects, and if we can tame the appetite for doing projects that sometimes are not clearly thought out, like the many others you've had, including the tunnels of the dam that was being done in Muranga, then we would be doing well. So right now we're in that situation where, yes, we are spending a lot of money on these projects. They might be well-intentioned or not. They are not economical, and some of them even are not being done with the right rigor in mind.
So,
and to close this...
go ahead, Jürgen, sorry.
Yeah, sorry, Andrew. To just close this statement, I'll just say that if you reflect back and see the number of many, many good projects that have been launched and they have been abandoned or orphaned midstream because they were not offering opportunity for kickbacks, you will agree with me that what I'm saying is true. One example is the laptops project. What happened to it? Has there been a report tabled on what happened to it? Everyone was excited about COVID supplies. Then the moment the money that was allocated was exhausted, a lot of that PPE is laying at KEMSA worth 4.2 billion that they cannot distribute because no one can buy it because they overpriced the purchases. I will continue and I can give you 10, but I can assure you all of them speak to one thing. There was a lot of appetite at the onset when there was either a lot of financing or there was the capex part. But when it comes now to the softer issues around now, the proper implementation, people abandon it and move to the next big project.
Now, if this is clear, because if you're coloring within the lines of logic, what you're saying anybody can, I mean, from what you're talking about now in terms of clearly you cannot spend more than you have. You cannot triple the cost of a project and then expect to get some value for it later. It just won't happen. And anybody who sees this can figure it out. So then how on earth do we explain that still you then want to be able to finance a budget? And we're looking at those numbers, 2.04 trillion shillings from this budget is expected to come from taxes and ministerial activities. This is what we are being told right now. More than half of that amount will still come from taxes from an already burdened and depressed economy. It sounds as though something is just being said because it needs to be said, but in the reality of things and really getting to the nitty-gritty of it, it won't happen. It cannot happen. We will get to the place whereby we will not be able to meet budget. Last year, at the end of the fiscal year, there was money that was given in order to meet budget obligations from that year. I see it going in the same direction, that you will not be able to collect, the country will not be able to collect on these supposed taxes of 2.04 trillion. And then you will get to the place whereby the begging bowls are retrieved and put out there for help to complete the fiscal year. How is it possible that you have so many people working on a budget process and then are not able to apply these clear truths? How?
Okay.
I'm not...
Both of you,
Sorry,
I guess.
Yeah, I can take that first. And I agree with you entirely. What you've said is very true. First, the KRA, which is the primary revenue collecting body, is given targets by the National Treasury. And by law, it says that they need to get the 2% of what they are collecting as their operational, money, which they are not getting anyway. Secondly, government is, let me call it, ambitious, because even if you look at the economic projections amid the depressed, economic activities, and let's face it, because of the harsh tax environment and the overly aggressiveness of the KRA, we are seeing capital flight as we speak. Looking at it from a consultant's perspective, we are seeing people relocating, investors relocating their businesses from Kenya to other regions. We have also seen investments that were initially intended for, let's call it the Kenyan market, either basing themselves in Tanzania or Ethiopia. And a good example, and an example in point, is the Tilenga project in Uganda. Previously, the oil pipeline from Hoima was to pass through Turkana en route to Lamu. But because of our expensive, you can call it land acquisition policies or whichever differences we had with our neighbors, the pipeline is taking the longer route through to Tanga. And this is just one example of the capital flights because of the not so ease of doing business, the aggressiveness of the authorities that, should be, how do we call it, doing business in Kenya easy. Though Kenya did improve, if you look at the World Bank rankings on the ease of doing business, I think we improved to position 63 from somewhere in 98. Still, if you compare setting up or complying with the statutory requirements in, let's say, Kenya and Rwanda, complying in Rwanda is so much easier and direct and less expensive as opposed to complying with the statutory permits, business registration, compliance, returns in Kenya. So, and amidst all this, we still have a lofty revenue targets. And if you look at the trends of Kenya Revenue Authority trying to meet the revenue collection targets that has been provided by the National Treasury, they have consistently failed to meet targets. And I think I can say with more certainty that even in these 2.4 revenue collection trillion that they've been given, I don't think they will meet it. And if they meet it, then the people who are paying the taxes will have really, really reduced. Because I usually say to my colleagues on the other side of tax administration that the relationship between the taxpayer and the tax administrator is that of a symbiotic relationship. It's like a tick and a cow. A tick should not suck so much blood such that the cow dies, because eventually the tick will die when it will not have any more cows to suck from. And that is what the revenue administrators need to know. And similar to the government, we should not, currently as we speak, there is a court order, of course we can't go into much details on it, staying the tax that was introduced by government called minimum tax. Technically, the government was saying that everyone should pay their fair share of taxes. So even if you're making losses, you need to pay something small in terms of minimum tax. And its implementation was not correct because let's say there was no window period
Koyo,
to say.
are you saying the government wants to tax losses?
Indeed, they are. Other than the courts are the ones that have saved the taxpayers, so to speak.
That was the plan.
Because the government said
that was the plan to tax losses.
1%.
It is actually in law, not just the plan. It is in law. Yes.
Okay, I get you.
Yeah.
But I also have a problem with this ranking that you speak of. You say we improved on some index or the other. When you say we improved, are there details to explain whether it is that our economic performance improved, or is it that those in that particular index did worse than we did, so they declined? What really do we look at?
No, I think we look at various parameters, and one of which that I might give credit to the government is the introduction of e-citizen, where now you can actually, schedule an appointment to go do something at Huduma Center. And again, you can, do a lot of your stuff online. Let's take a simple example of you are trying to get a business permit for expatriates or something like, or even you applying for a passport. You log into e-citizen, create an account, fill in the forms, make the payment via M-Pesa, and then print the already completed documents, schedule an appointment also online to go to Huduma Center or to go make a queue at Nyayo House to get your passport. So all these are also being, looked at when you're looking at ease of doing business. So we have a little bit improved, and Kenya also being up there in the tech world. it's also helping with, you can pay your taxes from your phone. You don't have to go line at previously the other two banks that were more or less state-owned to pay taxes. Because let's face it, Latif, 12 years or 20 years ago, not even 20, because I've started practicing tax, which is over a decade ago, sometimes just complying was such a hassle.
It was a week-long affair.
It was a week-long affair. You have to go queue, get this form, fill it, go pay there. But now, you can easily do that from the comfort of your office on your phone. So such parameters go into looking at ease of doing business.
Let me ask you this question, if I may. Clearly, this situation where we are in, where our key focus seems to be on debt repayment rather than on development, and when it comes to development spending, it's perhaps development whose need is questionable. What ought to be done so that the economic activities that are supposed to spur the income in this particular economy, what are the simple steps that the government can do, or what are the things that it is doing that it can stop doing to ensure that at least there's a breath, there's some breath of air that is breathed into this economy so that it can actually start moving forward?
Thank you. I think every time I sit down with my friends, I pontificate about the various things that we failed to do. And I'll now quickly outline them, and you feel free to stop me if I'm moving too fast. One, there's this question of counties. Can we have a structured manner in which counties are financed, as opposed to you being given 8 billion, 12 billion, and then we see Sonko, sorry to use this as an example, dishing out wads of cash in Dubai, for God's sake. Like, how ridiculous can we be? We are a poor country. You're in a third world country. You represent the people. You're on a taxpayer's bill. You're dishing out cash in the street. Now, can we then have a situation where the transfer of cash to the counties is structured? So, for example, I'll give you a good example. If we were to say every county should have a level 5 hospital, can we start by identifying those counties that do not have level 5 hospitals and making their budget focused on that? So in as much as you're going to be allocated your fair share, then your fair share is capped to certain areas of expenditure. That way, this question of if efficiency of project is catered for. So then there is this decision here that county number 36 lacks a referral hospital, and we made the national policy that every county should have a referral hospital. This year, their budget will go towards that. Outside salaries, we don't want to see a county with 6 rivers digging boreholes. That's number one. Number two, we stop taxing producer items. I'm talking about your LPG, I'm talking about your petroleum. No one drinks petroleum. And if anything, by the way, even if you are to have 5 cars, you can't drive all of them at the same time because petrol is cheap. But this is a producer item. You drive your car to go to work. It's diesel powering a factory to produce products for sale. LPG, no one choose LPG. You buy LPG either because you are a hotel, you're a restaurant, or even for use in your own home as a productive citizen. And also, it serves a purpose of saving the alternative sources of energy from depletion. So we stop taxing consumer and we start taxing raw materials or products that go into production. Then number 3, we look at the state institutions that should be revenue generating and are doing badly. And a good example is Kenya Airways. We stop doing bad money, good money after bad money. My apologies. So we must have a structured approach as if industries are failing, what is our recovery mechanism? Not every year passing an allocation of money without critical questioning of what is the institutional structure, what is the governance structure in that institution which is not working. Number 3 is the cottage industry. We no longer have a vibrant cottage industry because of the influx of the Chinese. Now, the question is, how do we foster the growth of this one? I saw on social media, there were various memes doing rounds of how people closed their water bottling plants because of the various levies. All right?
Yep.
Do we have a structured approach which is saying, since we have a minimum tax, since we have a monthly rental income tax which allows you to minimize your administrative burden on your maybe small houses you've built, can we have a similar setup where the cottage industries are exempted from most of the complexities of compliance? You have your CAPS levy, you have your county government levies, then you have NEMA, then you have got national government taxes. Can we have a structure where maybe through Huduma Center you are told if you start a plant for maybe bottling of water and your total expenditure is not more than 2 million, you will be required only to pay 3% to get a license, and you are free to operate and do everything that is required to be done. That will spur some growth. And if you allow me to close by saying this, no state has ever taxed itself out of poverty. So Gabby spoke about the way we have minimum tax and all.
Yeah.
I would always want to urge whoever is in a position where they're formulating policy to always remember the origin of taxation was in the ancient kingdoms, where kings would expect the harvest to be delivered to their courts to feed their servants and all that. You only deliver during harvest. Even in the Bible, for those who read the Bible, like during the harvest period is when there would be festivities, and people would come with the first harvest of your wheat and everything else, and you bring your sheep. You are not going to bring nothing.
I think we've lost Jürgen.
No, sorry, I'm saying if there is no harvest, you are not going to bring anything. So if you are making losses, we must question ourselves why we want to tax a loss-making institution.
That's true.
What do we want to achieve from it? Are we going to compel you to take a loan from your bank so that you can pay tax? Because if you're making a loss, that means there's no money in your reserves.
Yeah, again, very many questions that you've asked there. And thank you very much for joining us today. We've run out of time. Let's see what the CS speaks about in the Parliament this afternoon. And hopefully, then we can have this conversation, part B of reviewing what the CS has said. I want to thank you very much, gentlemen, for joining us. Jürgen Murungi and Gabriel Okoye, both tax administration experts. Asanteni sana.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Right. Good morning. It's now 8 a.m.
Spice up your life. The latest news from around the world. 94.4 Spice FM.
This is Newswire on the Lisa Soto. Kenya's education leaders and stakeholders deserve recognition for the great job they are doing in ensuring that the education sector becomes all-inclusive. Speaking to KTN's Frank Otieno, the Earl of Wessex, Prince Edward, says his late father's Duke of Edinburgh's International Award seeks to recognize these policies.
That degree of leadership at the top by community and political and business leaders, the fact that they value those skills and experiences which people learn outside the classroom, it reassures parents, and it reassures teachers, youth workers that this is of benefit. And in fact, it could be positively advantageous for their young people, for their children. And that then helps encourage more young people to get involved. And that's really important. So I think Kenya is in a really good place. And I'm very proud of what they've been doing there.
On COVID-19 and how it has affected the young people, he says many have adopted and managed to find something useful to do.
Oh gosh, well, it's affected everybody in different ways. But I think that particularly young people, a lot of people have had their academic careers interrupted, and we don't know what the repercussions of that is going to be exactly. But then those that have turned to activities such as the award, they've adapted what it is that they were going to try and do. And I know of young Kenyans who've been involved with making masks and helping with deliveries and doing all sorts of things in their communities, just in a really brilliant, compassionate way. And I think that's really good.
After years of demands that the ruling party Jubilee holds an election, plans seem to be shaping up, with the outfit hinting that the exercise will take place from the grassroots to the national level. Jubilee Secretary General Raphael Tuju said this is so that they can be ready for the 2022 general election. Tuju, however, says what is affecting Jubilee is ethnicity and not bad leadership as alleged.
A lot of the members tend to be members by birth or by DNA. I'm a Kikuyu, therefore I'm Jubilee. I'm a Luo, therefore I'm ODM. I'm a Mkamba, therefore I'm Wiper. I'm Luya, I'm ANC because I'm Maragoli. Those kind of challenges that we have. That's the reality we have in this country.
994 patients are admitted to various health facilities across the country for COVID-19, while 5,049 patients are under the home-based isolation and care program. These even as Kisumu recorded the highest number at 100, Nairobi 91, Bungoma 60. Counties in the Nyanza region and the North Rift have been asked to be on high alert following the surge in COVID-19 numbers in Kisumu, which failed to observe COVID-19 protocols during the Madaraka Day celebrations. Joe Allen believes a fearless generation of new players can fire ways to success at Euro 2020. Italy. Allen is one of the 8 players in the 26-man squad who helped Wales reach the Euro 2016 semi-finals. Manchester United winger Daniel James and Tottenham centre-back Joe Rodon are among the young additions hoping to inspire Wales this summer. This is Newswire. I'm Dennis Aseto.
.5 Spice FM, Kisumu.
Okay, so there's some traffic still on Thika Road. Getting into the city, Kiambu Road is still jam-packed. That's what it looks like. Trying to connect with Muthaiga Square. Let's look on Jogo Road, where all the way from Hamza, then moving towards the City Stadium roundabout, and then spilling over onto Landis Road. Traffic is still moving hot and heavy, trying to get into the city. The expressways, rather the southern bypass, is looking all right for now. The eastern bypass, not so much, because of that accident that occurred a few minutes ago. We're still dealing with the dregs of that as you're then trying to approach Thika Road from there. So if you're headed, just know it's going to take you some time because it's pretty slow because of that, and it has backed up quite some on the bypass. Northern bypass looking not too bad. Going towards Outer Ring at Taj Mall there, a bit of traffic at the junction, but then outbound, it looks all right. Coming into the city from Uhuru Highway, totally different story. It's going to need patience and perhaps a song. SpiceFM KE on Twitter. Text us on 40127 so we can keep things moving. All right.
This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Oko, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latif, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is The Situation
6
Room.
minutes after 8, Kenya's biggest conversation. Thank you very much for tuning in this morning. And every weekday morning, we're here from 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. C.T. Muga, today's proverb.
Indeed. If a child learns the trail of the snake, he will also learn the wanderings of the snake.
If a child learns the trail, nyoka mepitia hapa, inaenda zigzag.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
You utaelewa zigzag. That's what it means.
If you see nyoka, if you're told nyoka mepitia hapa, then the next thing you will learn is nyoka inaendanga zigzag.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Make sense?
Makes sense.
Makes sense.
It does make sense.
You know, it's us who think the snake zigzags, as we're saying. I'm certain if the snake had the sort of voice that we understand, it has a voice, we just don't get it. It will tell you that it's actually moving in a straight path.
It moves in a straight path.
Yes.
We are the ones who zigzag.
We are the ones who are getting confused by its dancing style as it moves along, but it's moving in a straight path.
This path is straight, it's the body that's doing things, but the path is
as
straight.
far as it's concerned, the head is still just, it hasn't
it's
moved.
moving in a straight path. Stop focusing on the twisting of its waist. Just focus.
Waist?
A snake has a waist.
Wow, okay.
It's usually near the
Everything
tail.
below the neck.
Everything below the neck is waist.
But it's waist.
Does a snake have a long neck?
Or does it have a short tail?
Short tail. Okay. Thank you very much to our audience on KTN Home who join us between now and 9 o'clock. Asanteni sana. We're here every weekday morning and the conversations will continue into the next hour. Let's talk about, now that we're dealing with budgets, let's talk about financing. And we've talked about this a number of years, a number of times now. Financing our healthcare system. Universal health coverage is one of those that have been touted as part of the Big Four agenda. The progress of the universal health coverage is still there. We know, I mean, they're working on how do we structure NHIF so that everybody then has access to some form of insurance. How do we increase the number of health facilities in the country so that everybody has access to a nearby health facility? How do we supply all these facilities? How do we equip them? How do we hire personnel into these facilities? All those, generally from a global perspective, are things about universal health coverage. But then, how do we finance it? Let's talk about HIV/AIDS, a field in which you've worked for a number of years, CT.
Yes.
HIV/AIDS in the country, according to some of the latest statistics from the National AIDS Control Council, we have over 65,000 deaths annually as a result of HIV, tuberculosis, and malaria. The number of people on antiretroviral treatment in the country is about, 1.2 million, 1.5 million people who are receiving medication for HIV, malaria, and the rest. Where does this money come from? And we're talking about money to buy the drugs, money to build the infrastructure and sustain the infrastructure, money for staffing and to pay the staff. 70% of this money basically is coming from overseas development assistance. This is donor funded, and we've talked about this many times. Our healthcare system has largely been supported by donors. Our government doing about 30%, especially in the area of HIV, about only 30%. Now, with the changing times, just like you talked about the other day, the Global Fund, the PEPFAR, and the others saying, now, it was a pandemic a couple of years ago. It does not remain the same. Because we've been financing, we've been expecting that things should be improving, and you'll now also build your own capacity to sustain. Are we able to sustain financing the healthcare needs, especially in HIV?
The answer to that question is another question. Are we willing to finance it, or are we perhaps more complicit in trying to maintain the position of constantly looking for handouts when it comes to financing this very key sector in our economy?
If it ain't broke, why fix it?
Actually, it was broke. The whole process of funding was to try and fix it and to make sure that it stayed fixed. And all the efforts that were made were geared towards that. Everything you've mentioned, from ensuring that you have the capacity, from ensuring that you actually stabilize the whole care system so that it doesn't get out of control. All that was done. But also with the understanding that with every passing quarter, with every passing season, with every passing period of funding, these are 5-year funding periods, there would be an understanding and audit of what is happening and refocusing on areas that require more help as opposed to others.
Yeah.
And the focus on how to ensure that you maintain perhaps a community approach to it so that at the end of the day, this very same thing that you're saying is able to be done. And funding was appropriated in such a manner. And even the process of understanding that the funding would reduce and the focus would be in other areas, all these discussions took place over time. I'm repeating the took place because with every year you were told, this is what we're going to do. Yeah. With every year, because it's not as though you're given the money for 5 years at a go. It's on a year-to-year basis. Careful monitoring of what is being done and how we need to focus on it. So after all these years, if someone comes and tells you that we're still not able to cope, well, we have institutions where we take such people so that their mental capacity can actually be determined.
I was
wondering which institutions this was.
Yes, because that money, given that the funding, any funding you talk about for HIV, didn't just take care of ARVs. It also took care of the opportunistic diseases that came with it.
Yeah.
And you know what? It was free. It catered for personnel whom you'd employ. It catered for all these. It was free. So surely, if all these needs were taken care of and it was free all these years.
If infrastructure was built over the years with this free money, we don't need to.
So should you not have been in a position to actually be able to take care
to take up some of these costs?
Precisely.
We are now in that phase because the donors have indicated, things are changing. We also have our own needs and we also have other needs that require the same kind of money that's coming from our taxpayers. So you need to start thinking about how to sort yourselves out. So in this transition phase where we are looking at how to sustain domestic financing for HIV and AIDS as part of financing our universal health access. Let's bring in somebody from the National AIDS Control Council. Josephine Kaberia is the head of costing and expenditure analysis at the National AIDS Control Council. She's now on the line. Good morning, Josephine.
Good morning, and how are you?
Very well, thank you. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you very much too for hosting me.
Now, we are at that point where we are in the phase of transition. We need to think how to move our budgetary allocation in this particular field of HIV from only about 30% to 100% if possible. This is not a mean task. This is something that requires a lot of effort, a lot of work to be done into it. But first of all, what are the needs? What are the things that the government has been trying to do, especially now from your coordinating point of the National AIDS Control Council, in terms of changing our thinking of how we can finance this budget? Where would the money be coming from?
Well, and thank you to you once again. Kenya has for a number of years been a beneficiary of overseas development assistance to finance very strategic programs, including HIV. Times are changing, epidemic is evolving, and a number of things have to be changed. Kenya has been focusing on what is it that then we need to do differently so that we are able to safeguard the gains that we've accrued over time using other people's money. As a government, we've seen this, and we are focusing on a number of things because HIV and other strategic programs are also a facilitator of universal health coverage. So having said that, the government is adopting an incrementalism towards budgetary allocations. We know over time health budget has almost doubled, but having said that, HIV is not the only program that Minister of Health focuses on. So other things that the government is keen on is improving on efficiency. That also now gives us more health for $1 that we spend. The government is also keen on other health enablers, such as good infrastructure, electricity, and generally improving health systems so that if I'm a patient living with HIV or rather a person living with HIV, I'm able to get my medication in the nearest dispensary in my county or in the grassroots, other than now incurring an additional cost to access these medication elsewhere. So generally, yes, HIV is heavily donor-funded, but government is not sitting back to look at the 1.2 million who around ART suffer. There are things we are doing, but we also need to appreciate that resources are scarce, and we know our government. We have a number of needs, looking even at the current budget that is being read today. So the government has put in place a number of things. But what we are trying to say as National AIDS Control Council, then there are these things that are very close to our heart that we are saying the government should be keen to provide. And one of these things, even as we transition, we might not be able to transition the entire system that addresses issues of HIV. However, we are trying to look at what is it that we can do almost immediately. And one of the things that we can do almost immediately is having some money set aside and put in the budget to address the very immediate issues of commodities. The commodities that we are looking at are the commodities that we are saying, this is life-saving, we can't do without. And this is what we are saying, even as we plan, even as we try to put our country together to be able to take our responsibility, then we need to start immediately setting aside the money for commodities so that this can be a starting point, even as we start reasoning, how do we then support the health care workers who have been initially funded by donors.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. So this transitory period, what are we looking at? And I hate to do this, but I'm going to have to liken it to another transitory period that was given in this country then when it came to things like blood donor, blood in this country. Now, here we are. Are we looking at 5 years? Are we looking at 1 year? Are we in the period whereby donor funding is, they've given a timeline as to when it's all going to end? If we can hear that, then I will ask my next question.
All right, let me say that we are seeing donors are leaving. It is a yes and no question. Resources might be declining, but we are not saying that donors are waking up and leaving tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
They will eventually leave. And because these monies that donors give us mostly are like for HIV programs, they are off budget.
Mm-hmm.
So donors will come today and tell us, we are reducing your money from 11 billion to 7 billion.
Mm-hmm.
So we are saying the government needs to focus and put mechanisms in place to continue taking what the donors are leaving behind. Donors might not leave, but they might be having different focus or different priorities. They might stop giving us commodities and support something different, putting in mind that we have also emerging epidemics like COVID-19.
Yes.
So the government needs to start absorbing what the donors are likely to leave behind when they are focusing at other priority interventions for different reasons, and also not prioritizing Kenya as a country that is poor, because Kenya is already a lower middle income country, which is supposed to co-finance or even rather raise quite a good percentage of funding for its own healthcare system, at least to 50% plus.
Okay. Is it possible, from where you sit, what you've seen over the last period, is it possible for a program like this to be run solely by Kenya without donor intervention?
Let me say that managing our current response, or rather putting resources into this program, especially HIV, it's not easy for Kenya, but we are saying we have a responsibility and a constitutional obligation to take care of our responsibility of taking care of the 1.5 million people living with HIV is solely the responsibility of Kenyan government. The donors have supported us. We know they are living and it's going to be painful. If I can give an example, using first-line medication on average, we require 13,000 to put someone on treatment for 1 year. If you take that figure and subject that to 1.5 million people, it's quite some good amount. We know our situation. It's not going to be easy, but we can do things differently, including trying to bridge gaps, going systematically. We are not saying that we are waking up one day and telling the government, please give us 125 billion to take care of PLHIVs. But we are saying because we are aware donors are living and they started to tell us we are going. We've been with you for this number of years. We've helped you build systems. Please now start focusing and owning this response. So the government at national level and county government needs to own the response. Having said that and saying that it is quite some investment, we need to focus in the right way so that we are also putting investments in ways that are preventive and promotive, so that we don't continue putting people on treatment, because treatment is not easy. It's a bit costly, but preventing is a bit easy to do. So our request as National Youth Control would be for the county government and the national government to put resources to interventions that are preventive in nature. To prevent one HIV case is easier than putting someone on medication or rather on treatment.
Okay. Did the mandate or does the mandate of the council include any kind of commercial activities for fundraising outside of what donors give?
Yes, of course. Part of our mandate is to do resource mobilization, either from donors or locally, and that is one area we are focusing on. In the current Kenya in strategic plan, which seeks to have 48 billion as a cost of implementing different interventions over the next 5 years. The National AIDS Control Council has cascaded this in count levels, and we've come up with the count AIDS implementation plans that are very specific to counties. And what we are trying to achieve by doing this is to have counties identify their own problems that are very specific to counties, so that then at county level we are able to say, this is what we require to conduct our own interventions for HIV response. These are the resources that are available, and this is how we need to mobilize for resources, including from private sector. So National AIDS Control Council has a responsibility to do domestic resource mobilization.
There's a program that was started by UNAIDS. It began with, it was 1990, and then in 2014 it was 95. Close to 100, not quite there. Talk about 95 of people living with diagnosed as living with HIV, 95% on ARVs, 95 virally suppressed. Now, if these goals were met, the understanding, as far as I know, was so that the cost of actually getting to treat people and to manage the whole aspect of HIV would be something that would be easy to manage. As a country, where are we with this? The 2014 declaration by UNAIDS on the 95. Where are we?
So on the 1990, where we are saying we need to identify 90% of the people living with the HIV and putting 90% of the 90% identified on ARVs and ensuring that the 90% of the 90 is virally suppressed. So Kenya has made progress in having viral suppression as a way of reducing infections, and we've really achieved towards our 90% rule. And this is why we are saying that when donor resources are reducing, then we need not claw back the benefit, or rather the gains that we've already accrued.
Allow me to stop you at that particular moment. Just let me stop you briefly and ask, how far are we from the 95? Not even the 90. How far are we? Are we at 15? Are we at 40? Are we at 80? Are we at 89? Where are we?
Kenya has managed on a number of these three aspects to achieve a 72%, which is a good progress. And that's why we are trying to say we need now, because we are talking about ending HIV by 2030, we need to really put a lot of our resources on preventive interventions, even as we focus on incurring the cost that we have to incur to put the people who are supposed to be put on treatment.
What you're saying makes a lot of sense, but if you're talking about viral suppression and if you're talking about adherence, and you cannot do all this without talking or referring to community involvement. Now, it isn't NASCOP's job, but I have to ask the question, what efforts has, not NASCOP, NDC done with the Ministry of Health to ensure that the community support systems that enable all these three aspects are adhered to? What is it that has been done? Because do we see a greater focus on funding on community efforts, or are we still seeing a focus on clinical efforts with regards to ensuring that we have HIV under control?
We are really focused on community health workers. And if you look at the structure of National AIDS Control Council, it's a devolved structure that goes all the way down to sub-counties. So we have a lot of community engagement to try and help us to address the response right from the community level.
I like the fact that you're saying that there's effort being made to do this, but you can't achieve this without the collaboration of the Ministry of Health. The Ministry of Health structure, when it comes to the deployment of human resource within the health facilities, what is the focus of ensuring that the ministry, actually, I know health is a devolved function, but the Ministry of Health has a big say in these matters. How much effort do we see the ministry placing on ensuring that we have human resource that can actually carry out these functions from a community level?
I would say that National AIDS Control Council, NASCOP, as well as the Ministry of Health, focuses on HIV issues, bearing in mind that HIV response is a multi-sectoral issue. The Ministry of Health is supportive. We have community health workers that are paid to specifically identify, link people with care, and I would say that our community engagement are strong, and this is also something that we are focusing on improving under the new Kenya AIDS strategic framework and the county implementation plan.
Josephine, as you said, this is a long journey. It's a transition phase. There is a lot of work that the National AIDS Control Council has done so far in terms of planning, in terms of re-strategizing and reallocation of some resources. So it's a conversation that we need to have over and over again as we see the progress. So this year, maybe the funding in the healthcare moving from 70% donor to reducing to 60% donor, and government taking up more and more. So we will have to invite you again so that we can keep track of this progress.
That would be good.
Asante sana for joining us today. Josephine Kaberia is the head costing and expenditure analysis at the National AIDS Control Council. We've been talking about financing, sustainable domestic financing for HIV programs in the country. We know that so far the HIV sector has been heavily funded by donors, overseas development assistance, and about 30% of the needs or financing needs being funded domestically. But now this needs to change, and that's what we're discussing. Thank you very much, Josephine, for speaking to us today, and have a lovely day.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye. 29 minutes after 8, Kenya's biggest conversation continues. We are going to take a break now, take a look at the weather and traffic and see what's happening, and then we switch over gears in the conversation. As we do that, Samsung has launched the A series.
Yes, they have. The A series of 32, 52 and 72, giving an opportunity for you to capture those great life moments, whether it is by taking pictures on the great selfie cameras that are available or spending time in conversations with your loved ones, where a battery that charges once allows you to talk for about 48 hours. So Samsung has been able to launch these great handsets and giving you an opportunity to be awesome in the presence of awesome people for awesome times and conversations. We want you to have access to that and some great Samsung merchandise as well. If you answer one question for us today, the Samsung A32 has a 20 MP selfie camera. Is this true or is this false? We'd like to hear your answers. SpiceFM KE on Facebook, YouTube, and or Twitter. Let us know what your answer is, and that Samsung merchandise could be up for grabs for you and one other winner today.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. Spice up your life.
We've been all through it, you know. We go to school, study hard, get the much-deserved grades, and celebrate our graduation. Then reality hits us. We get to the job market and we simply don't know where to start off. Thankfully, by visiting jobs.standardmedia.co.ke, your next career breakthrough could be a click away. Get the best in career advice, employment opportunities, internships, part-time jobs, CV writing, and interview coaching. Give your career the much-needed lift on jobs.standardmedia.co.ke.
What is the best gift to celebrate a birthday?
Cash, of course.
What if I told you that you can get cold, hard cash for celebrating a birthday? This June, I, Olivia Otieno, is giving 10,000 shillings to 41 lucky SpiceFM listeners to celebrate my 41st birthday. That's right, this June, 41 lucky SpiceFM listeners will get
10,000 shillings cash.
All you need to do is SMS the word cash to 29599. That's cash to 29599. And if your SMS is number 41 or number 1041, every Monday to Friday, you walk away with 10,000 shillings cash. Each SMS costs 10 shillings. Terms and conditions apply. Go to spicefm.co.ke for more details. What is the best gift to celebrate a birthday?
Cash, of course.
What if I told you that you can get cold, hard cash for celebrating a birthday? This June, I, Olivia Otieno, is giving 10,000 shillings to 41 lucky SpiceFM listeners to celebrate my 41st birthday. That's right, this June, 41 lucky SpiceFM listeners will get 10,000 shillings cash. All you need to do is SMS the word cash to 29599. That's cash to 29599. And if your SMS is number 41 or number 1041 every Monday to Friday, you walk away with 10,000 shillings cash. Each SMS costs 10 shillings. Terms and conditions apply. Go to spicefm.co.ke for more details.
Living isn't just breathing. Living is about taking it all in. Living is not just getting by. Living is taking the roads less traveled. Living isn't just eating. Living is about the art of wining and dining. Living isn't just doing the mundane. Living is about savoring the finer things in life. Because living is not a chore. Living is an art. In the new season of The Art of Living, we explore unearthed gems and discover what makes them home away from home. Join Nailante Kenga as she engages with exciting guests and tours the most exclusive destinations and homes every Sunday, 6 p.m. on KTN Home.
What is the best gift to celebrate a birthday?
Cash, of course.
What if I told you that you can get cold, hard cash for celebrating a birthday? This June, I, Olivia Otieno, is giving 10,000 shillings to 41 lucky SpiceFM listeners to celebrate my 41st birthday. That's right, this June, 41 lucky SpiceFM listeners will get
10,000 shillings cash.
All you need to do is SMS the word cash to 29599. That's cash to 29599. And if your SMS is number 41 or number 1041 every Monday to Friday, you walk away with 10,000 shillings cash. Each SMS costs 10 shillings. Terms and conditions apply. Go to spicefm.co.ke for more details.
You know, when you see someone being jailed, a governor or two or someone who stole, then people will fear. Because our problem is not the borrowing, it's the stealing.
We've become actually a nation of thieves. The only thing we lack is an opportunity to steal.
The guys who quote the Bible and say I'm a Christian and all that, and you know they're thieves. Return what you have stolen 4 times. If you know that you have property or anything that you have stolen, just return and say, my God does not allow me to hold stolen things.
Cloudy conditions.
The
in
weather
at
with
16.
Spice.
It's come to lows of 13 today, highs of 22. It's cloudy in Nyeri at 15, highs of 21 and lows of 13. And 13 degrees will also be the low in Nakuru. It's sunny at 15. 15 degrees and sunny conditions in Eldoret, highs of 26 and lows of 12. 29 will be the high in a sunny Kisumu this morning at 21. 21 and sunny as well in Kakamega, highs of 29. Highs of 30 in Mombasa today. Light rain currently at 25. It's also raining in Malindi at 24. Highs of 28 will be realized today. 27 will be the high in Kampala, where it's sunny at 22. Mostly sunny conditions in Dar es Salaam at 24 now. Highs of 30 and lows of 22 through today. It's sunny in Joburg, but 7 degrees. That'll be the low for today. It'll just go to highs of 15. 31 will be the high in a rainy Lagos. It's 23 at the moment and coming down to lows of 25 later on in the day. Partly sunny conditions at 24 in Kinshasa. Highs of 34 and back down to lows of 24.
Spice up your life.
So the eastern and northern bypass is not doing so good today. We have a lot of clog up of traffic, so just watching out for those that are still yet to dissipate. Looks like it's going to be that way for some parts of the morning. Into the CBD, please use Wangari Maathai. It looks like your best option for now. That's if you're coming from Thika Road. If you're coming from Limuru Road as well, use Wangari Maathai, the longer route into the city. If you're then heading out towards Westlands, you should be fine. Uhuru Highway through and through, from Nyayo Stadium roundabout all the way through to Westlands, moving extremely slow this morning, in and outbound. So just points of information for you. You can go the longer route. The southern bypass provides provides you that option out through to Kikuyu if you must, and then come round. It's longer, but you probably have an easier time maneuvering the traffic. Okay, so let's look in a short while how it looks like. Apart from that, doesn't look too bad in most areas. SpiceFM KE is how you can get to us on Twitter. Text on 40127.
Spice up your life. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done
All
right.
92 minutes to 9 o'clock. The conversation continues. This is Kenya's biggest conversation. It's the Situation Room on SpiceFM, KTN Home, and online, SpiceFM KE, YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. You are with Eric Latif, Nduoko, and C.T. Muga. So, former Chief Justice Dr. David Maraga gave an interview to KTN yesterday. And he was basically reflecting on the recent happenings with the swearing in of judges. 6 of them not sworn in, not gazetted by the president, despite the Judicial Service Commission having forwarded 41 names to the president and expecting 40 to be gazetted. They were not. So the question has been, what's happening? Why is the president acting this way? The Maraga's predecessor, Dr. William Mutunga, had also penned a long open letter to the president, and he said, you basically, and you have been told even by courts, that you have no role at all. Once the Judicial Service Commission has done its work of recruitment, it forwards the names to you. Your job at this point is, as head of state, appoint by gazetting them. And then you observe the swearing in. And that's it. You have no role. You cannot even send the names back to the Judicial Service Commission because it's already finished that part of the process. Maraga was repeating the same thing yesterday. And he was also now saying, look, we have a president who, over the last number of years, has been disobeying court orders, has been coming out publicly to speak about the judiciary and saying unpalatable things about the judiciary and its operations. And he says, look, this is taking us on a very dangerous path. It's a road to anarchy. When Sophia Nuna asked him, what will you remember President Uhuru Kenyatta for? What will his legacy be? He said, I'm sorry to say that I will remember him as a president who had no regard for the law. It's unfortunate, but that is a fact. When you have a court orders disobeyed from the top, do you know the ramifications of that? As a result of the disobedience of the court orders, criminal elements have taken advantage of that, and they are disobeying the law left, right, and center because they know nothing will happen. He says, this is taking us down a very dangerous path. At some point, he said, you know what? It's the role of Parliament to take steps. As far as Maraga is concerned, the president has violated the constitution which he sought to uphold and protect. And therefore, Parliament has a role to remove him if he violates the constitution. If these acts are allowed to continue, we are descending into a banana republic. This is what Justice Maraga, retired Justice Maraga, was saying. It's not the first time that Justice Maraga has had a direct clash with the president, addressing the president directly, not, fellow Kenyans, this country. No, addressing Mr. President. And this particular case, he's taking a case on the president and saying, when you disobey, this matter was even brought before the courts. Courts looked at the matter and courts expressed themselves on this matter and said, Mr. President, appoint. And you do not appoint. And then you go ahead and say, I do not appoint. Where are we heading? Part of what he was saying is we are birthing anarchy. Just listen to what former Chief Justice David Maraga said as we continue this conversation.
And particularly disobedience of the court orders is going to grind this country if we don't take care. You cannot apply the law selectively. When you do that, you send the country into anarchy. Lodge a complaint before the Judicial Service Commission, and whoever has been appointed, whether he was an advocate before or he was a judge before, he will be removed. If we don't follow that process, you know now.
I listen to him in terms of what he's saying, and regardless of how he sounds, there's no emotion here. And he's not the first one to have said, on the merits of the law alone, there are certain things here that have not happened. And if 1 + 1 = 2, then there's certain things we should be looking at in the manner in which we should, according to the law and what has been prescribed previously. This is not happening. This is the result. If this doesn't happen, this is then what should be done. I hear what he's saying, and he's echoing the sentiments of quite a number of people across the country over the last few weeks, that certain things have not happened in the manner in which they should happen. Why is it then that the president should be able to operate in this manner and nothing is done? And then we're saying Parliament should then take up their responsibility and do something about this situation because he has not done his job. And I find that now, for me, where it will be very difficult. The same Parliament who has told us that they are not able to do certain things, the same Parliament who's told us that they're handcuffed by the whims of the executive, that they are not able to. So it looks as though, for me, it looks as now you can say whatever you want. You can say that the law is not being followed. You can say that the Constitution has been abrogated. You can say that the rule of law is being disrespected. But guess what? To me, that's just what it is. In terms of anything being done by Parliament, which Parliament? Which one? The same Parliament that says it has been handcuffed? The same Parliament that says they are powerless? You want them to come now and start to institute impeachment proceedings against the president, who also has the power to dissolve them right now, should he wish? It doesn't look to me like something that's going to happen quick, fast, in a hurry. It doesn't.
You know, for me, when I heard Chief Justice Maraga speak, and when I read the letter by former Chief Justice Willie Mutunga as well, and what they were saying that we have had issues with not the executive arm of government, but with President Uhuru Kenyatta. That's basically their message. It is not the executive arm of government. It is the person occupying the office of head of state, head of government, President Uhuru Kenyatta, who, they say, he's disobeyed court orders, and we've seen the way he has spoken about the issues that have been brought before him, the way he has acted, the manner in which he has acted. And they have basically said, both of them, with this particular one, this is like where we crossed the Rubicon. Because the matter of appointment of judges, and Dr. Willie Mutunga gave the history of, this is not the first time. There was a similar incident where the Judicial Service Commission went through a recruitment process, and then the president said, but I have received some information that is not suitable regarding some certain candidates. And they resolved that. They said, Mr. President, it's okay, what you've received, you've received it, but in the end, they impressed upon him to appoint all the judges and say, if you have any information then that requires a removal of the judge, there'll be a process that is going to be followed. The law has put in place all those checks and balances. The president is repeating the same issue again, this time with the appointment of further judges. And in this particular case, according to what former Chief Justice Maraga is saying, even when he received communication from the office of the president regarding certain characters or certain candidates, those that have now been gazetted, some of them were in that list. So he's wondering, so what changed? If you had sent to us a list of certain people and said, I have issues against these people, and you have gone ahead and gazetted some of those people and put in others that you did not have issues with, and you've not gazetted them, and now you have issues with them, what's happening? And how come you're not communicating? I think this is a matter where, with two former Chief Justices and the current Chief Justice also having issued a statement saying the same thing you do not have anything else but to appoint those judges, the president is basically at a corner.
Is he?
They've pushed him there.
Well, it appears like they've pushed him there, but what on earth are they going to do beyond making declarations?
That's what I'm saying. You've said it and you've said it.
Yeah, you've said it and you keep saying it, and you even embellish it and make it sound better, and you include some more personal things, and you see.
What can they do?
If you ask me, there's very little they can do in this respect, and there's a lot they can do, and I'm going to explain the two things.
Okay.
When Justice Maraga, over the two-third gender rule, made his pronouncement according to the law, backed by our constitution, and said, you know something, Mr. President, my duty is to advise you, okay? Because I can't do anything beyond this. Disband this parliament. Now, it's a step that needed to be taken according to him, and he did. Now, if you talk about disbanding parliament, it was a two-third gender rule, my friend. Oversight of our budgeting process, ensuring that we keep to sane and reasonable limits with our borrowing. The things that, in my mind as a citizen, should have rendered that particular parliament defunct.
Didn't happen.
It's a question of take your pick. Beyond that two-third gender rule issue, it had to go to that. Well, you know, the case had to be taken to the Supreme Court.
Yep.
It's not as though the justice system could just pick it up themselves. Somebody had to take it there. The question I'm asking is, how is it then that I do not hear an equally strong voice from the judicial system with regard to the one arm of government that can actually send the president home? Why don't they censure them as much as... Censuring the president, we've got that. There's evidence to show that he, as the president, he as head of executive, has not done things that he ought to do. That one we've gotten. Why is there no censure on the parliament? Or are we going to say...
Over what?
Over their role.
Okay. So
because
in
this whole process cannot take place until without them.
But what I'm asking is, in this particular case, when Chief Justice Mutunga and Chief Justice Maraga speak on a particular they are speaking from the context of appointment of judges and disobeying of court orders. Okay? Those, they are pointing directly to what the president has done or not done. When matters have been brought to the judicial system on matters touching on parliament, judges have ruled on those matters. For example, saying some laws that have been passed by the National Assembly without some proper concurrence with the Senate or vice versa, those laws need to be reviewed. They have already done that. So they really, what would the former Chief Justices or even the judges be saying about Parliament with regards to the president not obeying court orders? What would they be saying?
I'm actually not disputing that. I am saying there is allowed censure on the president with regard to him not abiding by court rulings.
Yes.
That seems to be the focus.
Yes.
And the question you are asking, beyond, for instance, the judges making a pronouncement on issues that have been brought to them about parliament, what else can they do? Actually, we see to the president, beyond just saying he's not obeying the law, they've taken it a step further and said, you know something, this guy should be impeached.
Okay.
So it's just not making a pronouncement. The action is this. They have even prescribed an outcome that they think should actually occur. And I'm saying, I have not heard of that prescription with regards to Parliament. Beyond saying,
what? Parliament has not disobeyed court orders, has it?
No, but the ones who then would be responsible for bringing any kind of prosecution against the president, who is responsible for this disobedience, is them.
The court have done their bit.
Is there anybody else? It is them, right? So if you're going to prescribe an action,
how can a Chief Justice censure Parliament of an action that it should be doing? Yet our issue here is the president has not followed a court order. All right?
Yes.
Now, how do you institute impeachment in Parliament? Even a citizen can apply to Parliament to impeach.
So what you're suggesting that is the judiciary goes ahead and does it?
That the Chief Justice should be saying, all of you Kenyans, we censure you because none of you has gone to apply to Parliament to start impeachment proceedings against the president.
No. Nothing stopped the former Chief Justice from not only prescribing but giving us a roadmap as to the direction we're headed and that of a banana republic. Nothing stopped him. in that same spirit, nothing stops. When you make pronouncements about these things, nothing stops you from making pronouncements. This is really what I'm saying. Saying, you know something, Parliament is failing us. Nothing stops you from saying it. Parliament is failing us in the duty that they have as a third arm of government to ensure that some of these pronouncements we make actually are given an arm and a leg and air to breathe so that we can see the outcome that we are saying happen. Nothing stops them from saying. That's what I'm saying.
Because if you look at the chronology, pick out some of these events. Let's just start with one of the ones that you've mentioned. The 2/3 gender rule. Who was responsible for the implementation of such? And then we saw reasons as to why it could not be done. Parliament. Not once, not twice, not even 3 times. 4 to 5 times was this debate not even had on the floor of the House because of one reason or the other. It did not happen. What was the recommendation that was given on that alone by the former Chief Justice? On that alone, disband Parliament. That didn't happen. What else are we looking at? The raising of the debt ceiling, for example. And now we're talking about conditions that should have been put in place by who again? Parliament. Didn't happen. Then now again you're saying that these are grounds for impeachment of a president. Who holds that process in their hands in terms of what should be done? Yet again, Parliament. So you can make the pronouncement, but for me, it has no fuel. You can make a pronouncement and you can pronounce your disdain or distaste for a particular thing, but then it just remains just that.
But guys, even if Maraga yesterday said Parliament has failed for not having started an impeachment proceeding, it still has no fuel. The issue here is Maraga addressing himself to the issue at hand. And the issue at hand here is the president obeying or disobeying the law.
Okay, so he has said that
is the issue.
So then,
no, that's not the only issue.
That is the issue at hand at present.
So my question, as mundane as it sounds, is
the so is for the rest of all of us. The so is not for the Chief Justice. The so is for the rest of all of us.
Okay, so now
we have a law, and the people whose role is and their training and expertise is to interpret the law are telling us, guys, you see, they're no longer in office. Our advisory opinion to you Kenyans is that these people have been disobeying the law. We have said it when we're in office. We are still saying it when we are not in office. They have been disobeying the law. Now, all of us collectively, as the sovereign of this republic, our next step is how do we address a leader of an arm of government who is disobeying the law?
Yes.
Impeachment through our elected representatives. How do you initiate impeachment through the elected representatives? Those are secondary and tertiary questions. At that particular moment when Maraga was speaking, that was not the issue at hand. He was basically saying, you know what, we have seen disobedience of court orders, number one. The way the president speaks about the judiciary and talking about choices, it's about, the question was the president and his obeying or lack of court orders. Now, if you bring in a question of, so which other arms of government have failed?
No.
We can talk about
not who else has failed just
failed,
because of the point of failing. But I think it is on the same point that you're looking at it now. Because if you say, all right, something can be done about this issue.
Yes.
And according to the law of the land, the body which holds responsibility for having something done about this particular issue over the past however long on similar issues has failed. So then it goes back again to the people and say, all right, even if we were to do something about it, if you were starting to put pressure on your representative, for example, and say, look here, guys, the president has not been able to do 1, 2, 3. And it is our intent to want to put some pressure on you to begin to now start calling for impeachment, as an example. Mm-hmm. And they have previously failed. Where do you think the hope lies in any kind of recourse?
Can you really say they have previously failed in the impeachment?
No. I'm saying in other processes. Look, if there are things whereby it's a daily run-of-the-mill what you're supposed to be doing anyway and you don't do it, something of this nature, something of this seriousness, do you think that they're going to take it with a head-on approach?
You see, by saying this yesterday, Maraga has actually now shifted our attention to we have said, we have finished. The president, this is where he is. Next attention is, so what should we do about it? And he has now shifted the spotlight to the legislative of government.
How has he done that exactly?
By saying impeachment, just by mentioning impeachment. Let me read the question and the answer. Question is, he said, he doesn't know what he's supposed to do. That is what should happen with the it's the duty of Parliament when the President. It is the duty of Parliament when the President has violated Constitution. Is it at Article 142? I can't remember the provision, to take steps and remove him. And Sophia asked him to impeach the President. He said to impeach the President. That is the only way you can have order. If this kind of act is allowed to continue, we are descending into a banana republic very easily. You said that the President should not be a rubber stamp. There are so many other positions where the CJ swears in people as they've been appointed, but he does not disobey his function. He brought in the issue of where we are headed right now. We have a president who is disobeying. The way to address that is through Parliament, and he brought it. So that's how he shifted the limelight now. He has actually now shone the spotlight on Parliament. Parliament,
and
your move.
Yes. And now the question is, will Parliament take this ball which has been presented into their court clearly? And you have to ask the question, with historic behavior of the same Parliament, not a different one, would you expect that they're going to take this bull by the horns and say,
now let's address
let's
Parliament.
Initiate proceedings towards the impeachment of the President?
And that's my point. Now let's address Parliament, but let's not address Maraga and Parliament.
Actually, Maraga doesn't get off scot-free. Neither does Willie Mutunga.
Let's take a break anyway at this point. Thank you very much for watching us on KTN Home. The conversation continues on SpiceFM. You can switch over to SpiceFM, Nairobi, Mombasa, Kisumu, Nakuru, Eldoret, Nyeri, Malindi, or you can live stream SpiceFM KE on YouTube, on Facebook, on Twitter. Thank you very much to our audience on KTN Home. See you again tomorrow as we are on TV, but the conversation continues on SpiceFM. Our frequencies in Nakuru and Kisumu, 102.5 in Kisumu and 96.0 in Nakuru. We've been having some issues, but our technical team is on the ground. They're sorting that out. However, Nairobi, 94.4 is on. Mombasa, 87.9 is on. 90.9 in Nyeri, it's on. 97.7 in Malindi is also on. And Eldoret, 96.7. And for those in those regions that we are currently off air on radio, switch on to www.spicefm.co.ke or Facebook SpiceFM.ke or also Twitter SpiceFM.ke. Join the conversation. Do you agree with former Chief Justice David Maraga when he says we are on the road to anarchy? Do you agree with him? Good morning. It's 9 a.m.
Spice up your life. The latest news from around the world. 94.4 Spice FM.
The 2021-2022 budget is a recovery budget from effects of COVID-19. Treasury CS Ukuri Atani has dispelled fears that financial year will be tough for Kenyans due to increased taxation.
I think it's going to be an easy time. Optimism, this is going to be a recovery budget. And in doing this, we are going to sustain expenditures on those areas support business. But we're also looking at a situation where we are going to have a complete open economy because we hope to have rolled out the vaccines. This financial year alone allocated 7.5 billion for the rollout of the vaccine.
He says an extra 14 billion shillings will be allocated to fight COVID-19 with the intention of vaccinating majority of Kenyans.
From July, we are committed to provide additional 14.5 billion for the rollout so that we know we have all our people, or to a great extent, the greater percentage of the Kenyan will have access to vaccines free, not the one they pay for. They are going to have it free. And we've already set aside resources. We plan for it. If there's going to be a delay, it's going to be delay of supply.
Meanwhile, as Treasury CS will be tabling the 2021 budget today, Kenyans are concerned that the cost of living will go higher, especially with the increase in taxes on basic commodities. We asked you what you think about the budget, and this is what you said.
Kama ni kitu kama unga, mafuta ya kupikia, vitu kama hizo mimi ningeomba serikali ipunguze kiasi. Hii corona imetufanya turudi nyuma kiasi.
Sasa watu watasoma hii budget yao. Waangalie kabisa mwananchi kwanza. Kwanza unga waagushe. Tukichagua na unga tulikuwa tukinunua na iti. Kwani unga itakuwa tu ikichuka wakati wa chaguani.
The government will not allow intercommunal conflict to continue in the country. President Uhuru Kenyatta, while destroying a cache of small weapons collected over a period of time, said Kenya continues to fight Al-Shabaab but will not let leaders use that as an excuse to encourage ethnic conflict.
We intend to fight and we have fought Al-Shabaab, but we do not and will never allow leaders and individuals to use the name of Al-Shabaab to continue inter-clan animosities and conflict.
So, ladies and gentlemen, please let us work together.
He further called on Kenyans to unite in making the country safe.
A peaceful Kenya, a united Kenya, is for the good of all of us, and that can only be achieved if we work together and find peaceful solutions through dialogue and through conversation, which we as a government are more than happy to engage all Kenyan citizens, because at the end of the day, the security of our nation is not just our collective responsibility, but also our individual responsibility.
We lost 19 people to COVID-19, pushing the death toll to 3,345. Meanwhile, 312 patients have recovered from the disease, with 184 from the home-based and isolation care program and 128 from various health facilities across the country. Total recoveries now stand at 118,933. This is Newswire. I'm Dennis Aseto.
Traffic situation much better on Mombasa Road, heading out into the CBD via the Nyeri Stadium roundabout. Not too bad looking at it now. Uhuru Highway, however, is an utter mess, and that's in and out of the CBD, coming all the way from Westlands through to Nyeri Stadium and outbound as well. We're looking at still high levels of traffic coming off of Thika Road, getting towards Ngara, and then on the overpass there at the Globe Cinema. All right, so that still continues. Still, Wangari Maathai is a good bet for you to use as a road this morning. We still see some mad traffic right around Jogo Road headed into the city. Let's see what it looks like in about half an hour. Traffic hour should be over by then. But talk to us in the meantime on SpiceFM KE on Twitter. Text on 40127.
This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Oko, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latif, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is The Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
Kenya's biggest conversation enters the fourth hour. CT, today's proverb.
If a child learns the trail of the snake, he will also learn the wanderings of the snake.
If a child learns the trail of the snake, he will also learn
wanderings, same snake.
Trails and Wanderings of a Snake. It sounds like a book. Okay.
It sounds like a poem.
Should write one.
About the trails and wanderings of a snake? I'll give it a think.
The wonders of the trailing and the wandering of a snake. But chapter 1, the waist of the snake.
You're still on this waist story?
We're not going to let go of this one.
Clearly not.
So, back to Chief Justice David Maraga and President Uhuru Kenyatta. This is what the President said during the Madaraka Day Fit in Kisumu. And then former Chief Justice Maraga has responded.
Conversation should therefore ask is who carried the burden of this choice? Was it the judiciary or the people?
The cost has not been occasioned by the judiciary. The cost has been occasioned by those who violated the law. If we set aside, we nullified the presidential election. Why? Because the law was not followed. If the president and his people and the IBC followed the law, we would not have nullified the petition. So who has caused that cost? The president is putting it on the court. It is not the court which has done that. It is them who have violated the law and brought the cost of that.
Yep. So basically, the president was saying, look at what happened in 2017. The courts go and make a decision. Who bears the cost of that decision that's made by the courts?
Okay.
It's the taxpayer. Because the taxpayer has to finance a repeat election.
He has introduced a nuance. Now, look, Eric, the point I was trying to make, I'm not disputing everything you've said with regards to the wonderful things that the CJ, this particular former CJ, immediate former, the not so immediate former CJ, look, there's a subtle nuance that I am actually bringing into the discussion, and I'm saying, perhaps I am the one who doesn't understand fully that maybe the oath of office that Chief Justices take prevents them from saying certain things while they're still holders of the office. And so some of the things they're saying now, they are only able to say it once they leave office and they don't have that mantle of being Chief Justices. Perhaps there is that. I don't understand. Somebody ought to clarify it for me. But even if that were the case, the weight of the matter when it is spoken by a current holder of the office of the CJ. The CJ is not your average Joe citizen. No. President of the Supreme Court and head of the judiciary. It does not. That's what they call president. You can't get more powerful than that when it comes to legal matters. The same thing said when they're in that position. Again, speaking as a layman, the weight it would have would be infinitely more than the weight it has when it is said now. That's why I said perhaps they couldn't and now they can. But let me get to my point. It is true that perhaps in mentioning Parliament, what we are being told is that you, the people of Kenya who elect these people, maybe it is time you took this thing to the process so that it can get to us, so that we can then handle it. Because unless it comes to us, we can't handle it. That I also understand. But what I also understand is that as a citizen of this country, when you're in that position, I think they understand the import of their jobs when they had them better than even I do, better than we, the citizenry, do. What is it that prevented? When you extend your discussion and you get us to Banana Republic, all right, you've not only diagnosed, you've even prescribed. And I said it. I was saying simply this. Make the prescription real. Don't suggest it. Say it. Just like you're saying the president doesn't obey court orders. Said. You've said the president ought to be impeached. Said. You gave a ruling, this parliament needs to be sent home. Understood. I am simply saying it should have been said with greater clarity, because when this is a former head of one of the arms of government, this is not an ordinary person. A triumvirate, this is one of the titular heads. I am saying there are times for suggestions and nuances. There are times for simply speaking out boldly.
Clearly.
Yes, this is what you said. Because tenure of office, was he going to get sacked as Chief Justice? No.
No, he wasn't. But also remember, just like you said, maybe the weight of the office at that point. When you are speaking as Chief Justice, you're speaking not as David Maraga, but you're speaking as the office of Chief Justice, as head of the judiciary, right? So at that point, if you go ahead and say a president should be impeached, and saying directly the president should be impeached, are you speaking as a judiciary, or are you expressing your personal opinion? And there's got to be a very clear difference here. Because if you express a personal opinion as Maraga, it's fine. But if you speak about this as the judiciary saying the president should be impeached, you may be faulted for usurping the job of somebody else.
How, Eric?
The job of impeaching a president is not yours.
No,
it is Parliament.
He's making a conclusion. Look, if he's seen that the rule of law is not being followed and applied, based on the rule of law not being followed and applied.
Yes, but that's why I'm saying, as a Chief Justice, as a judge, you make determination based on what you have on the table. When the Chief Justice wrote to the President saying dissolve Parliament, he was performing a function that's written in law. And the process has been followed. It has gone to a High Court. It has gone to a Court of Appeal. The judges have said the matter has been given the time that it requires. Now it has been brought to his attention, Mr. President of the Chief Justice, Mr. Chief Justice, here is what the law says that you shall do. This was not David Maraga, Kenani Maraga, as a person writing to the President. This was a Chief Justice executing the duties of his office as stipulated in law. For a Chief Justice to go and express an opinion on a matter like that, what would he be basing it on?
Eric, but it's the same rule. Same rule.
I mean, ask the same question now that he's out. Clearly, he does not have the protections, quote unquote, of that particular office now, or he doesn't have the mandate of that office. Then he's speaking as a common citizen, like you or I outside here, just saying. So it doesn't matter.
He's not. It matters. Right now, he's expressing his opinion.
Because what can he do?
Right now, he's expressing his opinion and he's giving his considered opinion. As a Chief Justice, you don't have the leeway to express your opinion.
But he doesn't have to give an opinion, Eric. Every day, our justice system does precisely what I am suggesting. In that you look at a case, the merit, you conclude, and you say, 10 years.
Because you are in that position and you have been given the opportunity to use your discretion, and that's why you're a magistrate, judge, etc., etc.
But you know what? You know what a magistrate cannot do? A magistrate cannot initiate a case. Even if, as a magistrate, you witness somebody shooting somebody, you cannot take them to court.
True.
It's somebody else who takes that matter to court. You will judge based on what has been brought before court. Was a matter of impeaching a president brought before the judiciary? It hasn't. How can a Chief Justice be responding to a non-existent matter? What is he talking about?
Eric, it wasn't non-existent.
It has not been brought to the judiciary.
It
is not on record in the judiciary.
It wasn't
that
non-existent.
you can talk about
they
impeaching
issued
of the president.
a pronouncement. Look, every so often, you have people who have been asked to appear before court, and then you hear this one, they violated a court order.
Yes.
And there is a pronouncement that follows when you violate a court order, this is what happens to you.
Yes.
And it is pronounced. That's the same thing we are saying. There was a court order. Please make sure that these people are signed in.
2 years ago.
It was disobeyed.
Yes.
2 years ago.
Yes.
So when you disobey, there's a consequence in law.
Yes.
Now that consequence in law, he can say.
No, not until it is before him. The matter has been taken to court, right? Judges have said, a judge has said, this is the order. The person who makes a determination that you have disobeyed a court order is that judge who gave the order. Not that the CT sitting in Malindi can say, I understand there's an order that is... No.
Chief,
so even now,
no, I prefer to be taken to Lamu. This taking me to Malindi is
so
not
if you
true.
use the same argument, then even now, retired, term over, making this pronouncement as he has made it, again, it is a suggestion.
Of course it is.
Yeah, it's a suggestion.
That's what it is.
Just
He
as
didn't
it has
say
been
that
said before,
it is not a suggestion.
it is still a suggestion now that the president should be impeached.
Yes.
It's out there. Do with it as you wish.
Yes.
That's it.
And he has the liberty to express personal opinion on a matter such as this. He has the liberty to express it.
What you do with it
as Chief Justice, you cannot.
Okay, let's leave the judicial system aside, because this discussion involves two entities, judicial system, executive, isn't it?
Yes.
Now, ask yourself this question, because I've asked myself this question, from the perspective of a politician. When you read about a politician, a senior one, a head of state, conducting himself in a manner that can only be determined as disobeying the law, what do you think is really happening? Because the disobedience is what seems obvious. What do you think is actually happening? This is my view. Most of politicians in Kenya negotiate. They look for opportunities to negotiate. The thing comes before him. You are supposed to appoint, not appoint, chief. We've already appointed them. Just sign, rubber stamp, and we are good to go. A politician looks and says, fine. They can't be until I say yes, isn't it? Okay. Why don't we have a discussion about this? Negotiation. My thinking. Politicians will not lack an opportunity to negotiate. You appoint and then you leave 6 again. And the 6 that are chosen, you're being asked, if you have a fault, Mr. President, sir, tell us what these things are, because you have information that we may not have, so that we can see what to do. Silence on that particular matter.
You lengthen the road.
If you ask me again, further negotiation.
Which is, according now to what has been said, is outside of what you are allowed to do in law. This thing of pushing for negotiation, you're breaking the law by that thing of pushing for negotiation. I've got 2 callers on the line. Let's hear from them. Karanja in Naivasha and Jimmy in Malindi. Let's start with Karanja. Good morning.
Good morning, Eric, Idu and CT.
Good morning.
Yes, let me take you back to UK. something happens with what we call the KIRMUR, KIRMUIR, guidelines issued in 1955, that enjoined judges to silence since every utterance which a judge makes in public. It was an issue of good behavior and bad behavior, I think so. After the Queen address in both two parliaments, in both two houses, the parliament in UK is called a subordinate branch. And the judicial executive, in other words, is an autonomous branch in UK. Now, this happens, isn't it? There was this judge called Jonah Barrington, an Irish judge, was removed in 1830. After it was found he had misappropriated litigants' money and they had ceased to perform his judicial duties. Judges of inferior courts enjoyed arrest a degree of statutory protection. Let me take you to another judge here. I'm reading an article here. In 1977, a Scottish judge, Sheriff Peter Thompson, was removed by order in council after campaigning for a Scottish plebiscite. Continuing to do so after being warned about his activity. He had been found guilty of misbehavior on 2 occasions by a judge inquiry and declared unfit for office. So, let me come to the point. The president here may be right, but the system that he is using, or the method that he is using, not to swear in these 6 judges, I think is the poor judgment. Another thing is, Eric, Article 132, 132 says of the state law advisor. Who is the state law advisor here? We have the Attorney General. Yeah. We have the office of the DPP and Article 157, isn't it? 157, isn't it? So, now, my question is, the president can do this. I would have addressed the president to go and address both to the Senate and the Parliament. After he had done so, he can now give evidence to these judges or make an inquiry so that these judges can be looked at what happens here. Was it a good behavior or a bad behavior? So that we can know what is going on. Another thing that happens, the Parliament now, we are talking about the parliamentarians. The parliamentarians are the political parties. Who owns the political party, for instance, the Jubilee? Who owns the political party, for instance, the UDA? Who owns the political party, for instance, the ODM? There is a lot of influences. And there was a time that I was saying...
So, Karanja,
the parliament that we... Yes.
Coming to the point, what Chief Justice Maraga is saying is we are on the road to anarchy. Do you agree with him?
Yes, I can agree with Chief Justice simply because there was a time that I say in 1986, it happens in 1986. You know who was the president by then. It was called the abolition of the Attorney General tenure. And also, we see it the attack of judiciary in 1989 and in 1990.
Okay.
So I think it is a chronology of something that is happening. Yes, because
Thank you,
it's a chronology of events. Yes, thank you very much.
Have a lovely day. Jimmy in Malindi, good morning.
Good morning to how are you?
Very well.
First of all, please, I will ask for a permission. I never realized that people in Nyeri can hear spice. We are spicing in Nyeri.
But we've been saying it daily, Bwana Jimmy. And you unisikiza.
Then my head has always been in Malindi. Let me say one thing. I greet to all the people in Nyeri. I greet to all the people in Nyeri, all the old boys of Kagumo High School. This is Jemo Malindi. Okay? I say a very big up to those guys.
Okay.
Otherwise, let me go to the point. We are heading to an anarchy, self-made anarchy, or forced-made anarchy. Why do I say this? The president claims, in his claim, he says the JSC, yes, failed by passing these judges the name of these judges, and these judges had been involved with bad dealings as judges. So, this tells me either the JSC corruptly joined together and passed these judges, failing to look at their credibility, which the president, when he realized that these people had failed to look at this credibility as it is supposed to be looked at, he had to take a step. One. Number two, the reason why I can support that and the reason why I cannot support that will come in this way. JSC, it was given the mandate to vet these people, to look at their credibility and to nominate. The work of the president is simple. It's just to appoint. He does not have to question anything. Now, let's go to vetting of people. There is a problem when it comes to vetting of people in Kenya. Tell me why. Look, Matiang'i comes on the stage in Kisii. He clearly claims he is the head of Nchimkororo, and a group that is a militia group, in a campaign supporting Jubilee, who the president is the head, and Matiang'i claims that if anybody stops you from voting, I will tell the police to look away. I'm in charge of security. He says he's in charge of security.
How is this related to vetting?
I'm coming.
Yeah, I've got John on the line. That's why I want to make the point.
I'm coming. He tells a guy that he will tell the police to look aside and let you slap that guy who is refusing you to vote. Now, credibility of leadership. Who are these people who vetted Matiang'i without looking at this? Can a leader of Mungiki, can a leader of MRC, can a leader of Nchimkororo be a leader of Interior, in the CS of Interior? It is unconstitutional. When you look at ethics of that person, it does not qualify you. But looking at the president's amnesty in Article 133, the president can forgive any kind of crime to somebody. So, if the president used that to forgive Matiang'i, why can't he not use that to forgive these judges?
Basically, you've gone round and made the conclusion that that in your allegation, the CS was ahead of Nchimkororo even by the time he was going through vetting.
Not my allegation. Sorry to say this. Not my allegation. In his own statement, look at YouTube channel.
So he says that today. Does that mean that he was ahead of Nchimkororo 3 years ago, 5 years ago, when he was vetted?
You know, he was making his case, and he went about it, and I like the way he made his case. So, are you suggesting that the president should just forgive
the 6 judges?
The 6 judges?
Yes, I'm speculating that if the president closed his eyes looking at the integrity of Matiang'i, then the president should also close his eyes on these other people. And if he's not closing his eyes, if he's not closing his eyes for these people, then also Matiang'i should step down.
Thank you, Jimmy. John in Elbagon, good morning.
Morning, all. How are you?
Very well.
Fine, thank you.
You know, when this thing started, I always had given the president the benefit of doubt. But after yesterday's interview with Maraga, I just realized this is all politics. And I'll tell you why.
Please do.
Maraga said these names were changed. They are not the same names that they were given when he was the Chief Justice. And to me, that changes the whole
discussion.
Yes, it changes the whole discussion. And, you know, he just confirmed what his former deputy had said, that actually these names are not the names that we were given. Some were removed, some were added. And if that is the case, and I believe Maraga has no reason to lie, then to me it changes the whole matrix. It is politics. It is unfortunate. You are saying that we are on the road to anarchy. if you ask me, we are already in the capital city of anarchy, called impunity.
How do we address this?
It's unfortunate, and that's why I say, this is one of the tragedies of the BBI, of the handshake. As much as we say that the handshake brought what and all that, what the handshake did, one of the things it did, it emboldened the president to do whatever he wants, because he knew very well the strongest opposition is now part of him.
Yeah.
So he knows very well he can do anything and get away with it. And to me, that's the tragedy of the handshake and the so-called BBI.
Maraga said the same thing yesterday, that now we don't have an opposition that could have been pointing out some of these matters, that could be even initiating some of the processes that he's proposing.
Yes, like even impeaching the president.
Yep.
Yes. So it is unfortunate, and again, as Maraga said, people are saying, the current Chief Justice did, just go and accept those, and then we'll deal with the others. But as they say, you give an inch, the following day the person will want the whole land.
A bird in hand is better than 10 in the bush.
Absolutely.
Thank you, John. Thank you, John. Maina, good morning, Maina Karogo.
Fine, Eric. Thank you. Morning, Indu and CT.
Good morning,
Good morning, sir.
Me, I totally agree with David Maraga, because that is his opinion, and we know very well from the word go, the judiciary and the executive, they had a grudge since the election was nullified. So, me, I don't agree with Maraga, because between when the judges' names were forwarded and between when the president sworn in, there in between, if the judges had committed a crime, I mean the 6 of them who are not sworn in, the president has a right to not to swear them in, because actually if they have committed a crime, is it a must that the president should show in their names? What the Maraga and the other should demand? They should demand of the substantial evidence from the executive claiming that the 6 judges had committed a crime or anything that broke them from being sworn in. That is the argument Kenyans should demand. Let the executive show the substantial evidence on the 6 judges, but the president also has the mandate not to show in the 6 if they have committed a crime between this 1 year. Is it a must that they should be shown in? That is the question.
But the thing is there a process for removing somebody who's a judge?
Because actually, a span of 1 year, somebody may be committed a crime, and the body that actually gives the advice to the president see that they so and so should not be sworn in as a judge. But people are not asking those kind of questions, because a span of 1 year, in between there, you cannot know the character, behavior, and what they have done that could have maybe gotten the president not to shown in their names.
Okay. Thank you very much, Maina.
Ask that question.
All right. Anthony in Mombasa, good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Habari yenu leo?
Nzuri sana.
Jambo, hatujui wewe.
Mi hapa ni kuudhika tu, lakini now what to do.
Kinachokuudhi ni nini kaka?
Now, we have a law clearly stated what is supposed to happen. The JSC does its job. They conduct interviews. I believe they also go ask for details from EACC, NIS,
DCI,
such institutions. Because these people are not being appointed to small positions.
Yep.
So they go and look at every angle of this guy. And Some of these interviews are even conducted on air. Now, the person that I really want to hear from is the AG. The AG has been there since beginning. After. He's also the person who advises the president. But from the actions of the president, it seems that it's as if he's been aloof. When the names were presented for him to sign, it's when now he realizes, oh, by the way, there's so and so. I can't sign because there are some people who have integrity issues. But all this time, the AG was there. And I believe he was briefing him. From the moment people applied, all the names were vetted by the various institutions. So it was determined that so and so, they have cases to be investigated, and they cannot be even move on to the next stage. So you're eliminated way back. Now, the people who have now been selected for interviews, these are people who have passed a certain threshold. That means they've been cleared by some institutions that they not necessarily have to make it public. Now, when the president comes and says he has information from the NIS, this is an institution that does not share information with the public. They share with the relevant institutions, DCI, EFCC, the prosecution side of the So right now, if the president says, I have information about someone from the NIS, he has no liberty to bring it out. It's the same thing like that.
So what should happen?
Now, what should
he do with the information that he has?
What should have happened before was that information or the concerns from the president should have been channeled to the JSC via the AG. These are the concerns that the president has for this person. If those issues cannot be discussed openly, the JSC will look at it and find a way to address that issue, because you cannot be accused of something and fail to defend yourself. So now, when it comes that Maraga says there are people who are in the initial list, now they are not there.
Now they are clean.
They are clean. So what is happening behind? Is it that there are people who go and they're investigated, they go and clear their names, now they are now good, and there are others who are not there, now are corrupt?
The big thing, though, is that when you have such matters and such dossier against a sitting judge, then you should initiate a procedure of removing that sitting judge, because it doesn't matter whether you have not appointed that judge to the Court of Appeal, but they're still a High Court judge. They're still a judge.
Now, the problem, the thing that actually pisses me off is that we have written rules, and they are clear. And we are negotiating. Yes, we are negotiating. By the way, we can take this. No, we can do this. They are just black and white. Follow. Simple. That's what Maraga was saying. As much as you have information, kindly follow the law.
Follow the law. Thank you very much, Anthony.
I can't go kill someone, then I go like, that law is not good enough, blah, blah, blah. It is the law.
Thank you, Anthony.
Thank you.
24 minutes to 10. Let's take a break, take a look at the traffic and the weather, and also remind you that shortly we'll be rewarding 2 winners for the question on the Samsung and that camera.
So that camera is a 20MP selfie camera, and we're asking that, is it true or false that this is what the A32 has? Does it have a selfie, 20MP selfie camera? Post that answer.
MP here is not Member of Parliament.
Thankfully, no.
Tell us. It's not photomoto. It's megapixel.
It is.
Okay.
All right. So we're asking, is it true or false that that's a camera that exists on the A32? one of the phones that gives you that awesome experience, brought to you by Samsung. For some great Samsung merchandise this morning, answer that question and we'll be selecting those 2 winners and letting you know who those are this morning. It's Facebook, it's YouTube, it's Twitter.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. Spice up your life 24/7 around the world, non-stop. This is SpiceFM.
What is the best gift to celebrate a birthday? Cash, of course. What if I told you that you can get cold, hard cash for celebrating a birthday? This June, I, Olivia Otieno, is giving 10,000 shillings to 41 lucky SpiceFM listeners to celebrate my 41st birthday. That's right, this June, 41 lucky SpiceFM listeners will get 10,000 shillings cash. All you need to do is SMS the word cash to 29599. That's cash to 29599. And if your SMS is number 41 or number 1041 every Monday to Friday, you walk away with 10,000 shillings cash. Each SMS costs 10 shillings. Terms and conditions apply. Go to spicefm.co.ke for more details.
Classic soul, R&B, smooth jazz, neo soul, and nostalgic ballads.
Will be at 17, highs of 22, lows of 13 today. Cloudy in Nyeri at 16, highs of 21. 25 will be the high in Nakuru. It's sunny at 18. It's 18 and sunny in Eldoret, highs of 26. 29 will be the high in Kisumu. It's sunny at 24. It's also sunny at 24 in Kakamega with highs of 29 and lows of 15. 30 will be the high in Mombasa. Continues to rain at 26. Also raining in Malindi at 25. It'll go to highs of 28. 27 will be the high in Kampala, where it's partly sunny at 23 and mostly cloudy conditions in Dar es Salaam at 25. We'll see highs of 30. Highs of 15 will be witnessed in Johannesburg today. It's getting warmer. 10 degrees now and sunny conditions will drop to a low of 7. 22 and mostly sunny in Lagos. Highs of 31 and lows of 25 and partly sunny in Kinshasa at 24. We'll see highs of 34. Beijing is sunny at 32. It's going to come down to 16. Sunny conditions in Paris as well at 18. Highs of 27. 16 degrees and cloudy in London. Highs of 24 and lows of 16. And now into Thursday morning, New York is clear at 24. We see highs of 28 and lows of 16.
Spice FM, Nakuru.
Much better on these Nairobi streets. Also looking out into Mombasa, not much of an issue this morning, and things are looking good as opposed to yesterday. And then looking out west through to Naivasha, out Nakuru and through into Kisumu, major towns around the city. We don't have much of a traffic problem today. Mombasa Road will be busy throughout the day. We know Uhuru Highway specifically coming out of Nyeri Stadium roundabout through to Westlands. Expect some traffic today. The Eastern Bypass is looking better now. That we had a bit of a hiccup there. It's looking all right. Coming off of Thika Road, that traffic should dissipate soon, right? But we will keep an eye on things through the day, and you can talk to us. Let us know, is it getting heavy through the day? SpiceFM KE is how you can get in touch on Twitter, or you can text on 40127.
Sugar and spice and everything nice. Spice FM.
Spice up your life. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right.
You know, there's an issue that keeps popping up every time the issues of impunity regarding the head of state come up. And it has to do with legacy. Former Chief Justice Maraga mentioned the legacy of the president appears to be. But something that my mind is only just getting accustomed to is understanding that with this system that we now have with our constitution, you know, it isn't just a question of the president. We have three arms of government which are actually all independent. And the heads of these institutions have powers that are enshrined within our constitution. So if I'm to bring in just this discussion of, this is a dramatic pause.
Oh, right, okay.
Yes, of legacy, then I have to say that much as the president has a legacy to consider, so does the two former, or so do the two former Chief Justices. And why do I say this? They're making pronouncements now. They're within the law. It is the right thing to do when right now one little equation is missing. They no longer have the power that they had. What then stops me from suggesting that perhaps there are motives that are not obvious to the naked eye? Why now? Why are they saying things now? And in tandem, why now? Because these are not issues that became pertinent now. They were pertinent before. Why now? So,
which issues are they raising now that they haven't raised before?
No. I think, let me start again. I am saying they're bringing up these issues now, writing letters and piling up pressure. That's what I'm saying. Okay? I have to bring in the subject of motive, and I have to bring in the subject of legacy. Is there a possibility that the judges look at their tenure in the offices and look back and say there are things they could have done which they didn't do? The positions they could have taken which they didn't take? And now that they're out as citizens, it's becoming clearer that perhaps, because they're the only ones who can have that perspective, had they taken those steps, perhaps some of these things that seem obvious would not have occurred because they were in a position to do something about it.
So kind of lend a voice to the conversation in order to show that you actually are serving some kind of allegiance with the rest of the country.
Yes.
You think so, with an element of remorse, perhaps, that
Regret.
when they were in that position, they could have spoken out a little bit louder about what the situation really was? Because if you want to look at this court order issue, for example, it didn't start yesterday. It's 2 years in the running. Until we saw last week when this appointment was actually done, we were reminded again and again and again, whether it was civil society, whether it was other people who had, whether it was from, legal fraternity, whatever it was, there was the constant reminder that, look, these judges have not been appointed, and it's been 2 years down the line. Could it have been that a Chief Justice sitting at that point could have been more vocal, more repetitive about the issue, and then made such weighty suggestions even then?
But my God, how more forceful could Baraga have spoken? He spoke himself blue on the matter of appointment of judges.
He did.
Addressed once. His farewell address.
But Eric,
his farewell. Remember, he did like a media tour of interviews.
He did.
Judges.
He did. But Eric, what also came out specifically with former Chief Justice Maraga was, in my mind, an element of angst against an executive that appeared not to have treated him well.
My view. Give him the audience that he sought on a regular basis. That came out very clearly.
Yeah, which is entitled to.
Now, you see, that changes the complexion of this entire activity in my mind, because it then brings in the very personal element that you mentioned. I'm not saying it is negative. I'm merely saying it brings in another point of discussion as to why now, the motive behind it. Why?
Why now? Joseph Githaiga in Nyeri. Good morning.
Yes, good morning.
Good morning.
What I want to agree with the former CJ that if you see the executive has been changing the goalpost, there was a risk they said they had before. They were told to file all those complaints with the JSC. They refused. And waiting when if you look like the appointment of the CJ and the judges, Supreme Court judge last month, people are given time to file their petitions. Those who, like Katiba Institute, filed against the CJ. There are people who filed against Mugo. There are people who filed against Fred Gatia, even asking questions of their spouses, whether their spouses pay taxes, like Justice Duma Deri, that everyone was asked those questions.
Yeah.
But even NIS were given chance, KRA, ESCC. How could you wait until a day you raise that question? And you have not given this person time to explain him or herself. So I feel the executive is trying to master the judiciary because already they have the parliament in their hands, or the independent institutions like DPP is in their hands, so they can use. And now the judiciary is the one that is starting, and that's why people raise the issue of CJ Goma. How could she go to the State House to oversee the 34 judges? If she should have waited for all the 40, because next time she will be the one at the gallows. She will be told, also, we will not listen to you. Tomorrow it will be another, and that's how the executive is going to take over the judiciary. And now CT is saying that like CJ Maraga waited for him to go out so he can talk. CJ Maraga has stated every day from the first day how the executive has been. Even the issue of the budget, he stated. Even the issue of the judges, he stated that clearly and said that he will never go. It is either all or no, or none. And I think these judges that made the ruling against BBI, they are paying. So no judge will rule against the executive now because they know they will be targeted, and that's why they are bringing the ombudsman in the BBI to deal with these judges who feel like they can rule against the judicial. And that's why we passed the Constitution 2010, because Moi would appoint a judge in the night and make a ruling against especially the opposition. Now you have seen the judiciary has been speaking and saying you cannot even just make a ruling. Like now, and also CT saying that the judiciary has not been ruling against the parliament. The judiciary has ruled. Look at the security bill. Look at the issue of this other bill of IT. The one of look at also the issue of the bills that the National Assembly passed without Senate. The judiciary has been clear. That those issue of CT saying is like you may think he is talking like the government side. He's taking the executive side already.
Surely I have to ask you, at what point did I actually say that the court does not rule against parliament, really?
Yeah, you have said that the court has seemed to be targeting the president.
No, not seems. It is clear they're targeting him. There's no seems about it.
But if the president makes a mistake, if he was told, like now, the issue of the ministers, the president went back to seek his mandate. But if those ministers, they should have gone back to parliament. As the president was told, he refused. Like now, he has been, like the issue of Miguna.
The courts have ruled against the other two arms of government, obviously. They've ruled against the executive and they've ruled against the judiciary. And CT said the same thing. I think, Joseph, CT said the same thing. I think maybe what you may have misunderstood is when he was saying that maybe CJ Maraga should have spoken directly about Parliament not having initiated impeachment proceedings against the president
while he was in
office. He did not say
he spoke about it when he was there outside, about the budget. When he said about certain CSs and PSs, say that they can do anything they think. At he said that thing. You remember?
Well, did he say Parliament should impeach the president?
He spoke about it, that Parliament is failing. The other day he spoke about that thing.
But he did not come out clearly and say that they should initiate impeachment proceedings against the president.
When I tell you that Parliament is failing, what else do you expect? When I tell you that you are failing
against
the
Parliament
president
is failing. That's one point. Thank you very much, Joseph. Ed Getonga, good morning.
Good morning to you. How are you doing, guys?
Good morning.
Fine, thanks.
That was interesting. CT on the hook. Now, see the thing. Were it not for the Constitution, the president would be a dictator, not even an anarchist. The problem is there is a Constitution, and people are woke. Right now, you can just come at a country as democratic as Kenya, and you do your own thing. But I can tell you this: the president is somehow a dictator, because I right now, you have asked the question, why now? I'll tell you why the president is claiming or is asserting those things now. it's because he's run out of excuses. It's just that crystal clear. He's like, watu hawajui NIS, wacha niseme NIS ndo walimpa information. I can tell you this, even during the selection of CJs, okay, this is my own personal view, and I'm going to say it. I think Mother Koome, the current CJ, is not going to be as vocal as the previous Chief Justice Maraga. And I think maybe that is why the president or maybe the JSC or the powers that were there then. That's why maybe they passed someone like Martha Koome, because they know, well, she's going to do as to our willing or bidding. Because I fail to wonder, just because someone has ruled against you, then that someone is to be stoned. That is not even anarchy. That is dictatorship in another way. It's only that we are sweetening it with anarchy.
So you're already down that road of anarchy and dictatorship.
Yes. No, not only are we down, it's just that anarchy is the street, but dictatorship is the city.
Thank you very much, Ed. Ali in Mombasa, good morning.
Good morning, City. Eric, how are you?
Salama kabisa.
Still, are you there?
I am actually there and I'm listening to you, and thank you very much for the greetings. How are you this morning?
I'm fine. We have a sunny day in Mombasa.
That's good. We don't have a sunny day here in Nairobi.
Sorry, because you are about to get the cold weather soon. But
Yes.
it's starting now. Let me ask you, let me contribute it on one point over here. I'm not for the president, but I'm for the presidency as an institution. When the institution is referring other members of the other institution, that is the judiciary, to look into the issues. All of us who are discussing this issue over here, have we seen the communication that the presidency has sent to the judiciary in regarding to the judges that were not appointed? Is there a possibility that the presidency has sent it with a communication to say, we have A, B, C, D with these judges that we didn't appoint them? Can you look over into it? Or, if it is not so, then the only process of removing the judges from their offices is to create a commission of inquiry and see the alleged misconduct of these judges not to be appointed as appeal or as Supreme Court judges or even to be the Chief Justice.
Okay.
That is my question. As to other part of it, maybe to talk very tough when he was in the office, he has done by asking about the budgetary, the former CJ. He has asked about the backlogs to have more judges and all these sort of things, which the executive has never listened to him during that particular period. As into the executive and the politician, that is the legislative arm of any sort, they are there. It's in record that they have been refusing to attend to court orders. Even we have some examples that the executive, whether in the one government or in any of the 47 governments, have refused to go to court and listen to it, and they ended up having contempt of court, and nothing has happened
Nothing has happened. Yeah. Thank you very much, Ali. I mean, those are very many points, and it's true. The judiciary has raised issues. When there is contempt of court, who is supposed to enforce court orders? It's the executive arm of government. When there is contempt of court, who is called upon to then also enforce the fresh contempt orders? It's the executive arm of government. Now, when the head of the executive arm of government has contempted court orders, who enforces?
Eric, but consider, even before as we conclude this, if you're looking at the operationalization of our constitution, these moments, despite the dire predictions that keep being made about it, Banana Republic, grinding to a halt, anarchy and all that. What I also see is precisely that. We are beginning to see the Constitution at work. Because when one arm of government exerts its independence, and I am not referring to Parliament here, then it is clear that we are actually seeing what was envisioned would happen when you actually have these independent arms of government.
Yeah.
Yes. And we'd also understand those who are also part of that arm of government letting us down.
And they're basically drawing the boundaries, drawing the
Yes.
lines in the sand.
Ah.
Okay. So, the 20 MP.
Right, so we asked you that question today, and we do have some winners for that Samsung merchandise. When you tell us what about this particular A32 series makes you awesome. The question we asked is, excuse me. So the question we asked is, the Samsung A32 has a 20 MP selfie camera, true or false? And we have two winners today. One of them, Elijah Alai. The Samsung A32 has a 20 MP selfie camera that gives selfies with warm and natural skin tones. Congratulations to you. And Jones, General Jones. Yes, it's very true. The Samsung A32 has a 20 MP selfie camera. Congratulations to both of you. And we will get in touch with you about how you can get your Samsung merchandise.
All right. So, our social media team, Humphrey's going to get in touch with them on social media and ask them for their contacts and then be told how they can get the merchandise. Congratulations and well done. CT, today's proverb.
Yes, but before I read the proverb, there's a gentleman who is a very keen listener and keeps commenting from time to time.
Yes.
Babu wa Boda Boda. I send greetings to you, Babu.
Babu wa Boda Boda.
Yes, we greet you and we thank you for being an avid listener.
Very good.
Now join us in listening to the proverb.
All right.
If a child learns the trail of the snake, he will also learn the wanderings of the snake. Learn trail, learn
snake.
wandering.
Okay.
And who knows, you might even see snake.
Even learn to speak snakies. Thank you for tuning into the Situation Room today. Join us again tomorrow morning. So today, all eyes will be on CS Ukuriatani. Tomorrow, we'll have a conversation on what then is going to happen. Mkate inapanda na pesa ngapi? Gasi imepanda. Bei ya unga imepanda.
Kila kitu ime.
Hata serikali imepanda. Sugar and Spice coming up at 11. This is Yolanda and DJ Absolute with some good and interesting music. And then you have Monique coming to take you home on Spice Drive from 3 o'clock. And then the adults in the room from 7 to 10. Good morning. It's now 10 a.m. Have a lovely day.
Spice up your life. The latest news from around the world. 94.4 Spice FM.
Life-saving have negatively affected the economy, and now Treasury CS Ukuriatani says the measures might be reviewed after Kenyans are immunized and be safe to resume their normal operations. Yatani says that the government is focused on immunizing Kenyans since an economy can only be run by a healthy workforce.
Our expectation with the rollout of vaccines to all the intended targeted population, then we have no reason to constrain our business activities. Maybe issues of curfew, issues of containment measures. Therefore, now people have an opportunity to work hard, not only during the day, but also at night.
Yatani is asking politicians to reduce negative rhetoric as that discourages investment.
The good thing, Kenyans are very resilient. Our economy is a resilient economy. And one very important aspect for this country is that our economy is a diversified economy. And through this then, when one sector is not doing well, there's a chance of the other sector compensating for the loss is very high. I think Kenyans, we have a responsibility to ourselves. The political rhetoric at some stage where we are quite vocal about talking ill of our country, sometimes from a position of ignorance, can easily discourage investors.
Religious leaders from Kakamega County want President Uhuru Kenyatta not to interfere with the independence of the judiciary in the country. They say President Kenyatta's remarks during Madaraka Day celebrations signified interference with the judiciary's independence.
Nataka nieleze president asitumie lugha ya kushutumu kuweka majudges ambao wako independent. Wale majudges kwa nini sita wakatolewa? Ni sababu labda mnaangalia BBI. BBI haikukuweko kutokea mwanzo. Tusiangalie kupitisha BBI kwa lazima, ni president akapitishe BBI kwa lazima.
They add that it is important to maintain judiciary's independence so that it can carry out its mandate free from any interference.
Justice Martha Koome, nataka nimweleze ya kwamba inatakana awe peke yake, wala asiwe na interference ya president ama mtu yeyote. Aenda mshauri aone jinsi vile atakavyofanya kazi.
After years of demands that the ruling party Jubilee holds an election, plans seem to be shaping up, with the outfit hinting that the exercise will take place from the grassroots to the national level. Jubilee Secretary General Raphael Tuju says this is so they can be ready for the 2022 general election. Tuju, however, says that what is affecting Jubilee is ethnicity and not bad leadership as alleged.
A lot of the members tend to be members by birth or by DNA. I'm a Kikuyu, therefore I'm Jubilee. I'm a Luo, therefore I'm ODM. I'm Mkamba, therefore I'm Wiper. I'm Luya, I'm ANC because I'm Maragoli. Those kind of challenges that we have. That's the reality we have in this country.
This is Newswire. I'm Dennis Aseto.
Spice up your life. Through the golden years on 94.4 Spice FM.
So true, funny how it seems, always in time, but never in line for dreams. Head over heels, went toe to toe. This is the sound of my soul. This is the sound. I want a ticket to the world, but now I've come back again. Why do I find it hard to write the next line? Oh, I want the truth to be said. I know this much is true. this much is true. With a thrill in my head and a pill on my tongue, there's over nerves that have just begun. Listening to Marvin all night long. This is the sound of my soul. This is the sound, always slipping from my hands. Stands a time of its own. Take your seaside arms and write the next line. Oh, I want the truth to be known. I know this much is true. I know this much is true. I bought a ticket to the world, but now I've come back again. Why do I find it hard to write the next line? Oh, I want the truth to be said. I know this much is true. I know this much is true. This much is true. This much is true. This much is true. I know this much is true. 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 I know this much is true. This much is true. This much is
Spice up your life